Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Here with you live from the big time studio that we have here. Hope everybody is doing well. Yeah, I mean, it's a half victory Friday because of what the Tampa Bay Rays were able to do last night. So really, really good stuff there. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. And thank you, Carlos, for the fine wishes. My knee is better. My knee and my ankle definitely on the road to recovery. Shout out to Dolan and Bart and Benny and the whole crew. I love you all. Hope you guys are doing well. Eric Erlandsson, who is joining us later. They already pushed back practice time back 30 minutes. So it looks like practice is supposed to be at 11:30. It's 12. Oh my gosh. Eric Erlendsson, man. All right. Whatever you got to do, buddy. Whatever you got to do. Bart, Dolan, Benny, Chris Cole. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Share and subscribe, man. That's the biggest thing. Share all the stuff that we do on social media as well. My guy, Paul Paglia, always hooking it up as well. Love you guys. Plenty to get into today. This is one of the biggest shows of the year so far. And this is actually the final show that we are going to be doing here in the Recher studios because I am moving. No, I'm not moving out of Tampa. I'm just moving to a different place. And shout out to my guy, David Terry, with the super chat inclusion. Every single little bit helps, guys and gals. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, David Terry, and everybody. If you can contribute, guys, in any way, $1, $5, $10, $2, every little bit helps. It goes into the bank account, and it helps me keep this thing going. And now that we are going to be starting some partnerships up coming up soon, those super chats, as I clean off the camera here, definitely do help. So whatever you can do, if you can help out like David Terry does, every little bit definitely helps, and it just it keeps me going. It keeps me going, and I got big plans for the podcast here. So, yeah, last show here. So we're going to have a different background for the program. On Monday, we'll be there in Sunrise. So, obviously, that one be a little bit different. Probably be in the hotel room there in Sunrise. But after that, we shall see. The new house, I'm moving everything into there. We'll have a new studio, a new background. But David Terry, my guy, thank you very much. Glad you're back. Can't keep a good man down, Dolan. Bolt's all but done. Unfortunately, I like to hit. Hagel dished out. We'll get to that. We will get to that for sure. So here is what we got lined up for you. We're going to start with some draft talk. Then we'll get into some lightning stuff at 12:15. At 12:30, Matt Matera is going to join us from Pewter Report. He's going to give us his thoughts on the Emeka Egbuka pick at number 19 and what positions the Bucs are going to target the rest of the draft. At 1 o'clock, let's go up to Jacksonville and hear from our guy Jamal St. Cyr from WJXT Duval Nation. How happy are they this morning to get Travis Hunter? They trade up from 5 to 2 to get one of the most intriguing prospects that we have seen in a very long time. And what's he going to do? Is he going to play offense and a little bit of defense? How much defense is he going to play? We know that Liam Cohen is ecstatic, and that is the way to start your tenure as a head coach with a ultimate weapon like that. So 1 o'clock, we'll go up to Jacksonville. Eric Erlendsson, 1:20. He just texted me, so it might be a little bit later than 1:20, but we'll get with Double E, and we'll also talk some Rays baseball too. What a great win there in Arizona, 2 of 3, pretty darn good. Congratulations to the Rays. That's a big win, big time win. And then at 1:45. Shadour Sanders not getting drafted. My other thoughts on round 1 of the NFL draft. And then 2 o'clock, will Sasha Barkov be ready for game 3? George Richards from Florida Hockey Now. He is all over it. You want to talk about the guy that's kind of like the Eric Erlandsson of the Florida Panthers. George Richards is that guy. And you want to be able to hear from him. He is all over it. George does such a great job covering the Panthers. So we'll get with him at 2 o'clock to talk Sasha Barkov, Sam Bennett, and what he thinks about the Lightning's chances to come back down from an 0-2 hole to get back into the series. It is going to be a steep mountain to climb. And that's the other thing, too. I wasn't able to move out Wednesday because I had to go to the ER. So I was planning to go down today with Eric Erlandsson, but those plans changed. So I got to move out today, move all this stuff behind me into the new place. And then I'm going to leave early Saturday morning, tomorrow morning, to get down there for the 1 o'clock puck drop. And if you look at the injury to Alexander Barkov, you would think maybe if it's a night game, it'd give him a better chance to play. I highly doubt that he's going to practice. And again, we'll find out from George. I think they're practicing right now. So yeah, we'll keep you abreast of that information. The longer that, the more we get the info, they're going to pass it on to you. We know Brandon Hagel has a meeting scheduled with the league about that hit. We will discuss that here in a little bit because that is not good. And I know my opinion on the whole situation was in the minority. I get it, but that's just the way it goes. I am not going to sit here and just tote the company line. I'm not just going to sit here and say what everybody else says. And that's why we're going to start with the NFL draft and the Bucs picking Emeka Egbuka at number 19. We're going to start with that right here. And also everybody that tuned in last night, we had a big viewership last night at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, live from Amalie Arena, talking Bucs, talking Bolts. And a shout out to our guy, Tom Krasnicki, for joining us as well. Make sure you check out him at 3 o'clock today on The Drive on WDA. He's live from Moss Nissan in Newport Richie. I know that he's got Eric Neander going on the show. He's got Eric Kaufman. Hey, Jay Bird. I would love for you guys to call into the show when Ira's there or text into the show when Ira's there and just bust his chops. Hey, Jay Bird, what's going on, Jay Bird? I'm bothering Sean Payton over here, Jay Bird. He's the best. So go check them out for sure. Yeah, my comment about definitely going to be in the Tampa Bay minority, the hit on Hagel, has 26,000 views on Twitter, 350 likes. I think I've got more followers from the South Florida contingent. That wasn't my goal, but my goodness. All right, more on that in a bit. But first, I want to talk about the Buccaneers selection of Emeka Egbuka at number 19. Okay, now, one thing I want to make abundantly clear, and it doesn't matter if it's Eric Neander or Jason Light or Julian Breezebaugh, and it doesn't matter if I'm saying this or anybody out there, you're allowed to have an opinion that is differing from the majority. We're all not robots, right? Everybody's not going to think exactly the same. That's okay. We're entitled to our opinions. It's just the way it goes. Now, it may not be a popular opinion, but who cares? Like, that's what makes us all different and unique. Now, once you start crossing the line and name calling and just being terrible to each other, that's a completely different conversation altogether. But for me, I am not just going to sit here while I have this platform and just take everything that these general managers do and say, I agree with every single thing. I concur with all of these decisions. It doesn't mean that I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't mean I don't trust them, but it's just the way it goes, man. I'm an opinionated person. That's why I do what I do. I said this the last couple of weeks, and just because they made the pick at 19, my decision does not change. My opinion does not change. I don't think that was the right pick at number 19. I don't. Do I think Emeka Egbuka is a great player? I think he can be. I love the player. I love the guy. And he is cut from the same cloth. He is cut from the same cloth like the guy like Chris Godwin. I don't dispute that whatsoever. But where does Emeka Egbuka excel? In the slot. Can he play the outside? Yes. But who does that sound like? Chris Godwin, right? Remember when Chris Godwin was in the Dave Canales-led offense, and he did not seem like the same guy that we saw in years past. Look at him last year in the Liam Cohen offense, playing a bunch of the snaps out of the slot before he got hurt. He was on track for being maybe a Triple Crown winner. And you go out and you get a guy in that spot. I know you're doing it as an injury in case those guys go down again. But, man, are you really drafting to plan on your both top receivers going down. Like, no team in the league is going to be firing on all cylinders if their top 2 wideouts go down. Ask Philadelphia when they lost A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith for a while, right? If Miami loses Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, are they going to be still firing on all cylinders? What about the Cincinnati Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Like, I don't know if you can necessarily plan for that. I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing to do. You're fortifying your offense. I get that. You're helping it, and it's a contingent in case these guys get injured. I understand that. But you have a lot of holes on defense. The defense is where you need to pick up the slack. You got to get a pass rusher. You got to get an inside linebacker. You got to get a corner. I wouldn't hate a safety. I wouldn't hate a defensive tackle. That's 5 positions on defense I would have taken instead of a wide receiver. I thought it was a luxury pick. That was a clear best player available selection. And I don't know if they would have made that pick. I don't know if they would have picked another wide receiver if it wasn't Emeka Egbuka. And that, to me, shows that I just don't agree with the selection. I don't. When you have holes on defense, then you got to make the selection there. If your defense was that good, then I don't think – then I wouldn't have much of an issue with the pick of Emeka Egbuka at number 19. When you have as much trouble rushing the passer as you have the last couple of years, you can't honestly think that just one guy is going to make a difference with Hassan Reddick. He's going to help, no doubt. But is Yaya Diaby that guy? Maybe. We haven't seen it. Is Chris Braswell that guy? I didn't see much last year. You're banking on a lot of guys to progress in positions that you've had real struggles the last couple of seasons. And now all of a sudden you just think that, all right, those guys are going to blossom and bloom and develop in a way where your pass rush is going to be a top, 10 in the league, top half of the league. That is a really, really, that's big time hope. That's wishful thinking. Your linebacker position, there's a lot of hope on the defensive side. I don't like that. I don't like that you're dealing with hope on the defense. I want known commodities. I want guys that are going to be able to do the job. You hope that Braswell gets better. You hope that a guy like Yaya Diaby takes that next step. He thinks he's an elite pass rusher. I don't. He hasn't had a 10-sack season yet. Until you do that, then you can't consider yourself an elite pass rusher. Kalijah Kancey wants to lead the league in sacks. That's great. I want to be 6'7" and be able to dunk a basketball and throw 97. The hope isn't going to get me there. I'm sorry. And I know, and Bucs fan here, Evans and Godwin are going anywhere. The Bucs want 4 solid wide receivers. I get that, but the Bucs don't even play 4 wideouts a ton. They're one of the lowest numbers teams in the league. They use 4 receivers as low as anybody. You're doing that just based on experience of guys getting hurt. I don't know if that's really a smart thing to do. I really don't. What does that say about a guy like Trey Palmer? It shows that they don't have a ton of faith in him, that he's going to be one of the guys to be able to contribute in a big way, because you have to understand, if Trey Palmer made that kind of step up in his game last year, when Mike and Chris were out, they're not making this today. They're not making this, or yesterday. They're not making that move. But I got to be honest. I don't. My opinion of picking a receiver at 19 doesn't change just because Jason Light picked Emeka Egbuka last night in round 1 of the NFL draft. I still think they should have went to the defensive side of the ball, because even if they picked a defender at 19 on Thursday night, they still wouldn't be done on that side of the ball. They still have to go out and get more guys. They still need a corner. They still need an inside linebacker. They still need an edge rusher. Go get a safety. Go get a defensive tackle. And again, I don't hate the player. I love the player. I think Emeka Egbuka, he's probably going to be good for the Buccaneers. I just don't love the pick right there. Because if let's say everybody's healthy. And of course, this means you don't have to rush Chris Godwin back. I get that. But what if he is ready for week 1? And you have Evans and Godwin and Jalen McMillan. You got a guy in Emeka Egbuka is he going to be out there for the first offensive snap in 2025? There's no guarantee. I want a guy that I'm drafting at number 19 that's going to be in there starting week 1, no doubt about it. Maybe he's in a battle with one other guy like we've seen in years past with a guy like Graham Barton, right? Last year we saw it against Robert Hainsey. We saw Bucky Irving not start. He came in, obviously, midway through the season and really kind of supplanted Rachaad White as the number one tailback. But I don't know if we look at this spot right here and say that this was the smartest pick to get this team ready on the defensive side of the ball for week one. Now, it's not that I think that Jason Licht's a bad GM. I don't think it was a horrible pick. It's just not a pick that I would make. It's a pick where I think they should have went on the defensive side of the ball. They should have fortified the defense. And for all this talk of, Jason Licht has earned the benefit of the doubt, I get that, and I understand. But with that being said, this is a big year for the Buccaneers. Because if you make the playoffs once again and then you get bounced in the first round again because your defense can't pick up the slack, what are we going to be saying this time next year? The Lightning are in that category right now. The Lightning are in that spot as we speak, where all the good vibes of the championship are slowly dissipating. They're quickly dissipating now. And I have people commenting on my posts on social media saying that there needs to be big time changes with the coach or the GM or the players. This is a team that just won back-to-back cups a couple of years ago. But a third straight first-round exit, people want change. And we love what Jason Licht has done. Don't get me wrong. But if the defense doesn't really take steps, excuse me. But if the defense doesn't really take steps forward this year, who is going to be to blame? It's going to be Todd Bowles. It's going to be Jason Licht. It's going to be the players, right? And we're going to look back at decisions that were made during the draft and during free agency and wondering if they should have went in a different direction. Again, I love the player. I think Emeka Egbuka is going to be a fantastic pro, and I think he's going to be pretty good for the Buccaneers. But it doesn't mean that they couldn't have utilized that pick in a different way to help them in a spot where they desperately need more assistance, more production, more consistency, more reliability. We'll see. We'll see what happens in round 2 and beyond, but this is just round 1. This is just my initial reaction to the entire thing. And listen, I hope he does well. I hope that everybody stays healthy. I hope this is an offensive attack that we saw in the Super Bowl back in 2020. I love that. But let's not forget, as much as they did have Evans and Godwin and AB and Gronk and all those guys, they also had JPP on the outside. They also had Ndamukong Suh, right? They also had Devin White playing like a first-round pick. They also had Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy Bunting and all these guys at the height of their powers with a great rookie in Antoine Winfield Jr. So as much as everybody wants to say, hey, you look at that offensive side of the ball and what he can do, I understand that. But defensively, let's not forget, that was the side of the ball that won him the Super Bowl. All right, good stuff there. More football talk at 12:30. Our guy, Matt Matera, is going to join us on the program. Thank you so much for everybody tuning in. All right, here we go. We do need help on the defense. And thank you guys for the contributions. Again, I want to get a little hockey in here. Before Matt Matera joins us on the program. All right, so Lightning down 2-0. And I was pissed yesterday or 2 days ago about everything that was going down. Loved the effort last night. And for all the people that talk about the physicality and the hits, Jay, they got to be more physical. They got to have more hits, blah, 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 blah. And again, I told you guys about the lazy narratives when it comes to hits and when it comes to physicality. Where'd you hear it? Right here. Everybody does another elbow from their asshole when you're talking about hockey. The first thing they're going to do, the first thing they're going to talk about when teams don't win is that, oh, man, they're getting out-hit. Oh, man, they're not as physical. It's just such a lazy way to analyze what is going on. Last night, the Lightning out-hit Florida 38-34. Is everybody happy now? You won the hit battle. Woohoo! Awesome. I'm ecstatic. They out-hit them. What did that give you? Gave you jack shit. Didn't give you anything. Nothing. Nada. They were more physical. Everybody got what they like. So dumb. Time and space. That is way more important than the physicality. They are all over the Lightning. Stick checks, sticks in the passing lanes. Look at the power play last night. The power play was 0 for 5. 0 for 5. Look at how many block shots the Florida Panthers have. This, to me, is a much bigger story of this series than the hits. Last night, Florida has 20 block shots. The Lightning, 6. They are not getting in the shooting lanes. They are not getting in the way of some of these shots. That is a huge reason why the Lightning are down 2-0 in this series and why they lost 2-0 last night in Game 2. The Lightning have to be better. And there's one guy that stepped up from week 1 to week 2, or Game 1 to Game 2, and that's Ryan McDonough. I thought he played really well last night. I thought Erik Erlendsson played really well last night as well. Okay? But there's 2 things that I want to address here more than anything else. And the first thing is the hit on Brandon Hagel. From where I sat last night in the press box, I had a clear view of the hit from Brandon Hagel on Florida Panthers captain Sasha Barkov. And the first thing I said when that hit happened was that it was going to be a 5-minute major. The first thing I said, for a multitude of reasons. One, the puck was nowhere near that right corner when the hit was levied on Barkov. Number 2, I saw it. McDonough's the guy that touched the puck. Barkov attempted to lift his stick to try to make a play there, but he did not have clear possession whatsoever. Next up, it was a blindside hit. It was a blindside hit in a big, big way. And we've heard them talk about getting rid of those type of hits, eradicating them from the sport. We see it in the NFL. We see it in the NFL all the time. We talk about it. Guys like John Lynch couldn't play today, right? We've heard that before. The NHL has said in years past that they are trying to get rid of hits like that. They're getting rid of those Scott Stevens-like hits where guys are looking up and it's a blindside hit and they don't see him coming, and then the guy gets hit like a mother effing freight train. That falls under that category right there. The other thing, whether you guys like to admit it or not, is that Barkov stayed down. He really took punishment on that hit. And I know when you look at the stats, it says, Hagel's 6'1" and Barkov is 6'3". Trust me. I have been in the press conferences, in the locker rooms with those guys. I don't know if Hagel's 6'1". I sure as hell know that Barkov's 6'3". That is a big, solid individual. And for a guy that's at least 2 inches shorter, to hit a big guy like that, and Barkov is a guy that really does a good job of taking care of himself. He doesn't take big hits like that. But Hagel got the leverage, and he smoked him because he didn't see it coming. There is no room in the game for hits like that. And there's no room in the game last night for a hit like that. There's 9 minutes left on the clock. You're trailing. You're losing. You're on the power play. Whether you agree if it was a major or not, it's still a 2-minute penalty, and you're taking your team off of the man advantage when you're trailing by 1-0. Take the referee's opinion, the league's opinion, my opinion out of this. That's a poor, poor decision from Brandon Hagel. And I truly believe that it had something to do with him getting cross-checked from behind earlier in the game and taking a boarding penalty from Carter Verhaeghe. Now, I understand what people are saying. That should have been a major. I thought it should have been reviewed, and I said that as well. But the fact that Hagel got up, and then after the penalty was called, he's skating in front of the Florida bench, and he's pointing, and he's talking smack to him, the referees just normally are going to look at that and say, it doesn't look to be as bad as we initially thought. If Hagel takes that hit right there and he goes down, I think you have a much better chance that it's going to be a major penalty. People want to act like that shouldn't matter. It does. It's just natural, just the way you look at it. Because initially I said, he could be in serious danger right there. But when he pops back up, you think, maybe it's not as bad as you initially thought. But I think that it was the right call, and I really wouldn't be surprised if he got suspended for Game 3. He's got a hearing today with the player safety crew. That was a rough looking hit. And it's just, again, uncalled for, unnecessary. I think it was the right call. I know I'm in the minority with that, but he's got to be smarter. He's got to be smarter. This whole team has to be smarter if they're going to get back into the series. And now, with a clearly compromised Anthony Cirelli and Luke Glendening, you may be without one of your best two-way players in Brandon Hagel for Game 3. The other thing, I need to take a drink before this. I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. The Lightning are doomed if their star players don't step up. Doomed. And if they don't pick it up in a big way in Game 3, they have played their last game at Amalie Arena this season. Shout out to Ryan McDonough because I thought he took a step up from Game 1 to Game 2. But I want to talk about 3 players on this team that deservedly need to get called to the blue carpet and pick it up because they're the big dollar guys and they are leaders on this team. And the first one is Andrei Vasilevskiy. And the reason why I want to talk about him first is because that first 20 minutes was unacceptable last night. The last 40, he was fantastic. He tracked the puck much better. The rebound control was through the roof. But just that first slip up in the first 20 minutes, the rebound control was off. I don't care what anybody says. That goal scored by Nate Schmidt cannot go in. He's 60 feet away, skating backwards. It's a slap shot going against the grain. You're not screened at all. That puck cannot go in. We're not talking about a run-of-the-mill goaltender. We're talking about the best goalie of this generation. That puck cannot go in. And I said it on social media. He needs to step it up or this series is over. And he did. So that's why my criticism for 88 starts there and ends there. But the next 2 guys, it does not end there. Number 77, Victor Hedman. You, my friend, are the best defenseman in Lightning history. You are one of the best defensemen in the league, and you have been for a very long time. But you are getting outplayed by the other number 77 in this series. Nico Mikkola is playing better than you. You have not hit the net in what seems like forever. My friend, I love you. You are one of my favorite players, one of my favorite guys to be around. But you had as many shots on goal last night as me and David Terry and Christopher Cole and everybody here on the Recher podcast today. That's not good enough. You need to be way better. How many times did Victor Hedman let the puck get out of the zone last night when it needed to be kept in? Way too many. How many times did he miss the net? Way too many. Hetty, come on, brother. This is your time. You need to show everybody that you're the captain, that you're leading from the front. Not good enough. And last but certainly not least is number 86, Nikita Kucherov. Guys, it's 12 straight playoff games without a goal for Nikita Kucherov. 12 straight. Kuch had damn near 21 minutes of ice time last night, 7 minutes and 43 seconds on the power play. 7:43, more than anybody on the Lightning. He had 1 shot on goal. 1 shot on goal. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. What are we doing? What are we doing? Our leaders have to step up. If not, they're getting swept. Get out the brooms. I'm driving my unhappy ass down to Sunrise for this series. Game 3 tomorrow, Game 4 on Monday. Those 2 guys need to step it up. No excuses. Listen, if you go down and you lose and you get beat by a better team and you're giving it all you got, fine. But you can't tell me that that's the best that Victor Hedman and Nikita Kucherov have. They're a huge reason why they finished second in the Atlantic and why they were a trendy pick to go deep in the postseason and why this team went to 3 Stanley Cup finals. But in 2025, this postseason, utterly ridiculous. Come on, guys. You have it in you. If you don't want to be making your tea times on Tuesday, then step it up starting Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. And I made this mention yesterday as well. It'd be nice to score on the power play. 0 for 5 last night. You know who had 3 power play goals in round 1 last year in 5 games against the Panthers? You betcha. 3 power play goals in 5 games. He was the best player on the team in the playoffs. So when everybody wants to talk about all these things, about what the plus minus was in the regular season, all these other things, let's not forget who the best forward was for the Bolts in round 1 last year. And I guarantee you, guaranteed, the Lightning win that last game last night if number 91 is in his office firing those pucks. But we don't have that. I hope you're happy. All right, back to football talk. And we do with our pal Matt Matera from Pewter Report. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks again for having me on. Always enjoy chatting with you and excited to talk about this Bucs draft.
Yeah, buddy. We'll get a little WrestleMania in there, too.
I had a feeling.
All right, let's get right into the Bucs. I just want to fill you in on my thoughts on the pick at 19, Emeka Egbuka. I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I don't think going wide receiver at that spot is a smart choice just because of how many holes on defense that they have. Love the player, don't necessarily love the pick. And I understand why they did it, Matt, right? It's almost as a prevention in case, guys get banged up. But Matt, if any team out there loses their top 2 receivers, like, you're screwed. Yeah. If Higgins and Chase go down, or Devontae and AJ Brown go down, or Hill and Waddle go down, like, they're screwed anyway, right? I understand that. But when you have a need at edge, when you have a need at inside linebacker and corner and safety and D tackle, like, it's not just one spot on defense. It's almost like you're planning for like the worst case scenario. If everybody's healthy in week 1, Egbuka might be your wide receiver 4. And it worries me a little bit that your guy that you're picking at 19 might not be out on the field for your first snap in week 1 in 2025. What did you make of the whole selection and the whole idea that Jason Light and his crew decided to go with?
I was certainly a little bit surprised that they went with Egbuka and a wide receiver, because Matthew Golden was still available there. He ended up going to the Packers a couple of picks later, but I was a big fan of Matthew Golden if the Bucs were going to go with the wide receiver. Right. But knowing that guys like Donovan Ezaraku, the edge rusher from Boston College, was still available and is still available going into day 2, knowing that pretty much every single corner was available at the time, it was a little surprising to me. But what it tells me, especially with a lot of these big names still available on day 2 going into rounds 2 and round 3, is that Jason Light and the Bucs front office feel good about who's still available on the defensive side. They're not obviously turning a blind eye to the fact that they need a lot of help on the defensive side, but that's partially why Hassan Reddick plays into the mix. So Egbuka, I actually believe, is the most NFL-ready wide receiver right now. That doesn't necessarily mean his ceiling as high as Ted McMillan, who the Bucs are now going to see twice a year since he went to Carolina, and some of the other wide receivers. But he's ready right now. He has a Chris Godwin style of play. Was at Ohio State for quite a while. You don't see guys stay at one spot anymore in college football. So I understand the pick. I understand the insurance policy. I think it can help, take a little bit less off of the plate of an older Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as he's, rehabbing. And I think he'll push Jalen McMillan for wide receiver 3. I don't think it's penciled in right now that McMillan is wide receiver 3. We have to remember Josh Grizzard, comes from being the wide receivers coach with the Miami Dolphins, where he worked with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and some talented guys. So it's just another weapon for Baker Mayfield. And I think with everybody that's still around on defense on day 2, I wouldn't be surprised if every pick from here on out in the rest of the 2025 draft is defense. And that's fine to me because Jason Light has made his best picks in round 2, round 3, and round 4. I mean, we can look at last season specifically. I know it hasn't worked out with Chris Braswell in round 2, but you had Tyke Smith, you had Jalen McMillan, and then the best of them all, Bucky Irving, in round 4 with Smith and McMillan in round 3. So they can still find some really quality guys on defense today.
Yeah, and that's what I wonder too, Matt, because like we say that these picks on defenses have worked out well, but I think if we closely analyze these picks on defense, like as much as we love the potential of Tyke Smith last year, I feel like watching these games, and you watch everyone as I do, like it's been more potential than what we really saw from Tyke Smith, right? I didn't look at many games last year when I go, wow, Tyke Smith did all of these great things. It was a game here that was good, banged up a little bit. Didn't really see much in certain games. Like I feel like we fell in love with the idea of Tyke Smith a little bit more than the actual play. Antoine Winfield Jr. didn't play all that well. Obviously, love that pick. But, Servassier, there's a lot of hope on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. And that's what bothers me, is that great teams don't rely on hope. We hope that Servassier Dennis is going to be healthy. Like at the end of last year, everybody was like, well, we don't know when he's going to come back. That's never good, right? We hope that he's going to be healthy. We hope that a guy like Chris Braswell is going to take a step forward. Yaya Diaby's talking about I'm an elite pass rusher. Dude, you have not had a 10-sack season. Kalijah Kancey's talking about I want to lead the league in sacks. Bro, I want you to be able to track on Jaden Daniels and stay healthy for 17 games, right? That's what worries me, Matt. Do you see that perspective for myself where we hope that Jamel Dean can stay healthy if he's still here? We hope that Zion McCollum takes a step forward. It's like, geez, man, how many sure things are there on the Buccaneers defense right now outside of, we hope that Hassan Reddick does good in his 1 year. I mean, other than Vita Vea and what we have from an aging Levante David, I feel like there's not many sure things on defense, and that's why I look at the 19th selection and I go, man, if we're banking on a lot of hope, give me as many high talented guys that you can out of college that can make contributions right away.
As Morgan Freeman said in Shawshank Redemption, hope is a dangerous thing. I completely agree with you in terms of the injury aspect of it. Like, I enjoy the player, Servassier Dennis, but what I don't enjoy is that he's only available for 6 games in a season. That doesn't do the Bucs any good. And, sometimes it's bad luck when it comes to injuries. Like Chris Godwin and his ankle injury last year, that was bad luck. That was essentially a hip drop tackle, which, that's a conversation for another day. But these other like soft tissue injuries and things of that nature can get frustrating. I push back on Tyke Smith a little bit. Now, the injuries, of course, again, the injury is the biggest thing. But when he was available, I mean, he was tied for the team lead in forced fumbles. So on a team that wasn't getting turnovers, he was the one guy that was actually trying to make something happen. He had that big interception against the Raiders later in the season. I know it's the Raiders and they're not a good team, but they were driving into the red zone. Tyke Smith was able to stop it right then and there. I think if Tyke Smith, if they move him to strong safety next to Antoine Winfield Jr., if those guys are able to stay healthy, and that's the buzzword is health for this team, they're able to stay healthy, I still think the world of Tyke Smith and what he can do. As far as linebacker, going back to Servassier Dennis, you never really see a lot of linebackers go in the first round. That's why Jahad Campbell was the first guy, and it took until, the second to last pick to get that done. So I have a feeling the Bucs are going to load up on one position twice. It's either going to be inside linebacker or it's going to be at the cornerback position, which would help out with a lot of things. Because it's not just that Jamel Dean gets injured a fair amount, is that he gets injured in games like in the first quarter. And then you're kind of screwed because if you know Jamel Dean is out on a Wednesday going into Sunday's game, you can prepare with bringing in an extra corner or getting that corner extra reps. The problem is Jamel Dean gets injured in the first quarter, and then the player that maybe would have been his backup isn't even dressed for the game because they had to, fill out the rest of the roster in one way or another. And part of the Jamel Dean injury was the fact that Bryce Hall then got injured in the first game of the season. I think we're kind of overlooking that Bryce Hall was going to be the top backup corner for this team last season, but he got injured in week 1. I'd be very surprised if that happens again. So there's no doubt that they have to address corner and inside linebacker. I could see inside linebacker being the first pick that they make in the second round coming up later tonight. So they're going to double up at one of those positions, and my guess would be either linebacker or corner.
Yeah, I think Schlesinger from UCLA, that seems to be a guy is that one of the guys who are some of the guys that you're keeping an eye on either at the linebacker or corner spot here today or tomorrow?
Demetrius Knight, the linebacker from South Carolina. So he's a little bit on the older side. He's actually 26 and he's married, and him and his wife already have a child. So you want to talk about like maturity? He's going to be like as mature as some of the other guys in the league or on this team. Jeffrey Bassa, the inside linebacker from Oregon, he is a pass coverage type of linebacker. Used to play safety, now then moved to linebacker. So I have my eye on him. I'm a big fan, and in basketball, I was Team Shaq, but in the NFL and college football, I'm a big fan of Kobe Bryant, the corner from Kansas. He's probably more of a third-round pick, maybe even a fourth-round pick, but his innate ability to get after the football, be in the face of the wide receiver, whoever he's in front of, I think he would be a perfect fit for Tampa Bay. And then another kind of, I don't want to say wild card, but Savon Revel, the cornerback from ECU, coming off of an injury. But, I mean, he's got those instincts and intangibles that I see with, like, when Darrelle Revis was covering. Just being able to cut in front of a receiver, knowing where that receiver is going to run his route before he even makes a break on the football. If he can be fully healthy, which, again, kind of backfires with what we just talked about before, if he slides all the way down to when the Bucs are on the clock in the second round, I think he may be the pick as well. But there's certainly going to be more options, and I trust Jason Light that he feels good about who's still available on defense.
Better chance of the Bucs trading back or trading up today? And do you think either one of those will be likely to happen?
I think it's quite likely. Either way, but if I had to choose one, I would say maybe trade back and get another. Because remember, they don't have a 6th-round pick. Now, they wouldn't just trade back just to recoup the 6th-round pick, but maybe get a 2nd, 3rd-round pick. Again, what they did last year, where they went Tyke Smith and then 2 or 3 picks later went Jalen McMillan. So there is a history of that. I could see them trading back a little bit, recouping another 3rd-round pick, maybe even a 2nd, 4th-round pick, and really just adding a lot of different pieces on the defensive side.
Were you surprised that they didn't trade back at 19 because all those guys on defense were there?
Well, I think it's the same as a couple of other teams in front of them. Like, we were seeing reports that a couple teams in front of the Bucs were also fielding trade offers, but nobody wanted to trade up. So I think Tampa Bay wanted to, but they just couldn't because it takes 2 to tango in that aspect of it. But I think they definitely would have wanted to trade back considering who was still available, but just wasn't able to get it done.
Yeah, I was looking at some of these drafts. Obviously, the Giants had the big trade back in to get Jackson Dart. I thought that could have been a nice trade partner there. They waited to get him at 25. I thought it worked out really well for them, trading their 2nd and swapping 3s. I think it was, really, I thought it was a smart move for them, getting their guy before somebody else jumped in. What did you make of that deal, trading up to get Jackson Dart? And what did you think about Shadour Sanders not going in round 1?
Yeah, I was a little surprised that Shadour didn't get drafted by anyone. Of course, once he kept dropping, Pittsburgh seemed like the ideal location. And then Pittsburgh made a very non-Pittsburgh type of pick with Derek Harmon going to Oregon. I mean, I didn't really see that coming. You would have thought, like, all right, they need as much help as possible on offense, despite the fact that they traded for DK Metcalf. I'm a little surprised. I mean, Shadour seemed like the number 2 quarterback after Cam Ward went first, but that's why you do all the scouting, and Daboll has that history of being able to develop Josh Allen when he was over in Buffalo. So, Daboll kind of knows that this is his last straw. He needs to figure it out with the quarterback right here and right now. So if he likes Jackson Dart for whatever reason, I mean, the last time the Giants had an Ole Miss quarterback, it kind of worked out pretty good, right, Jay?
Yeah, I'm not going to give him the Eli treatment quite yet. But
are we really complaining about? Are we really complaining about championships in New York when there's been so few and far between in the last 2 decades?
Listen, Eli was my guy. He's, I think, the biggest enigma in sports history.
I agree with that.
There's no, and I said this before and I'll say it again, there is nobody in sports that has or will ever have a career like Eli Manning.
Yeah.
Because if you take out those 2 years, he is a huge bust. And a guy that you're like, what the hell happened with this dude? But instead, he wins 2 Super Bowls. He beats the greatest quarterback in both of them, including the undefeated season. The way that he was able to play, those stretches of them in the playoffs, like you went into Green Bay twice. You beat Rodgers and Brett Favre in freezing cold weather. You beat Dallas. You beat San Francisco. You beat the Bucs. Yeah, it's crazy. And then to make 2 of the greatest throws of all time with David Tyree and Mario Manningham, and to beat Brady both times. Like I still to this day don't even know how the hell that whole thing happened. But hey, that's Eli's Eli, and from all accounts, he's like a great dude, and I believe that like great things happen to great people. I want to ask you about the Jets too. I know there was an opportunity for them to possibly get a tight end, but I think the pick of Membu there, it makes a lot of sense. You got Fashanu last year from Penn State. The Mekhi Becton thing obviously didn't work out, but man, you want to protect Justin Fields. You got a phenomenal running back, and I'm glad that they didn't trade him. I think Garrett Wilson will do better without Devontae Adams there. I like the pick. I really do, and I think he's a guy that can have a huge impact. Maybe not early on, but man, I think the sky's the limit for that kid out of Mizzou.
Yeah, I was perfectly fine with the pick. It would have been exciting to go wide receiver or Tyler Warren, the tight end, but I totally get it. I mean, as we've seen here in Tampa, building through the trenches is the way to go. I don't care what team you are. I don't care who you have at the skill position. If you don't have the trenches figured out, you're not going anywhere. Now, I don't buy the sense of like, all of a sudden the Jets have one of the best offensive lines in the league because Aaron Rodgers, I know he's older and wasn't able to move around, but he was still getting hit a ton.
Right.
And now you have Justin Fields, and obviously he's much quicker and more mobile. And yes, like you said, you have Garrett Wilson at wide receiver. They drafted a receiver last year, Malachi Corley, who I was a big fan of at the time. So I'm not saying he's going to be their number 2, but you could certainly, see some improvement and development from him and still go out and get a talented wide receiver in this year's draft as well. So I had no problem with Membu, with the trenches. You lock down your 2 offensive tackles, the most important spots on the offensive line. Joe Tippmann's a pretty good center for this team. Elijah Vera-Tucker is an above average guard, but he gets hurt all the time. So I can't bank on him playing 17 games. It's a new regime. For the Jets at this point, they haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. I'm not going to get hyped or excited about anything until they actually prove it. But I'll never complain about improving in the trenches.
No doubt. Before we get to some wrestling talk, do you think the Bucs make any other picks on the offensive side of the ball this weekend? And if they do, what position?
Ooh, good question. It would be a late day 3 pick, like maybe even that 7th round. The only one I can really see is either a tight end if they don't fully think that Cade Otton would sign an extension because he's in the last year of his deal. The one that has a little more validity to it would maybe be running back, just for the sense that Rachaad White's in his last year. And I'm not buying that Rachaad White's going to get traded. There's still so much value for Rachaad White on this team as second string running back, but the third down back. He's the best route runner on this team. He's the best pass blocker on this team. And another team that is going to trade for Rachaad White for what? You're getting 1 year out of him, and then he hits free agency. But I could see I'd be surprised if Rachaad White is back next season. So maybe you draft the guy and then start to develop him, and maybe he can have a big role in 2026. Besides that, I think it's going to be all defense. Any
offensive lineman questions?
No, because they re-signed Ben Bredesen and they drafted Elijah Klein last season. So, they could try to replace Robert Hainsey, but I think that kind of was the Elijah Klein pick. So maybe Jason Light loves his offensive lineman, but I think this might be the year where they actually don't go with an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and they got Charlie Heck too, which I know he was at the Lightning game last night with the guys. And everything that I've seen from Charlie Heck, he's just one of those guys that he's a good help out in a bunch of different spots, happy to be here. Everybody loves kind of guy. So I'm like, all right, there you go. You have your 2 backups, and then you go from there. All right, let me ask you, and we'll start off with the night 1 main event of WrestleMania. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk. Paul Heyman turns on both of his buddies, his best friend and his tribal chief, to join up with Seth Rollins. And then Monday Night Raw, they reveal that Braun Breaker joins that crew. I love it. I can't wait to see who else they add because I don't think they're going to stop there. What is your take on the WrestleMania main event, joining up with Braun Breaker, and who you think that they could add to the group?
The match itself was fantastic even before, Paul Heyman did everything that he did. Just 3 great performers, the highest level of the WWE, the top guys for sure. A lot of fun. Triple threats I always like, and I know they always do it at WrestleMania because anything can happen. Anything can get involved. You can use weapons and all that stuff. And they didn't even use a ton of weapons until the chair at the end. It was one of those things. There was a lot of speculation about it, but it was one of those things where I was fine that it was somewhat a little predictable because it was still so poetic and they did it the right way. And like Roman being so upset when Heyman went with CM Punk, like gave him the chair, even in the beginning when he took off the Ulafala and was like, do I give it to Paul or do I just say kind of like F it? Like, I love the storytelling within the match itself. Heyman screaming at CM Punk after he gave the chair, after the low blow, and after he gave the chair to Roman, being like, you did this to me, and everything like that. And then everything with turning on Roman, I thought was incredible. Braun Breaker, that was like oh, damn, like Braun Breaker's with them right now. I thought that was super cool, getting an enforcer involved. I'm all for like adding someone else, but I wanted to let it breathe a little bit. Like, you know how with the bloodline, Solo Sikoa didn't come for quite a while. And then eventually Fatu showed up and everybody else. I don't think they need to add someone immediately right away. As far as who would be a good fit in that group, I'm racking my brain. I don't totally know. A lot of people have said Austin Theory, but Theory's been like around for a while. I think it'd have to be someone that's only been here for a little bit. Some people have said Karrion Kross, but then he cut that promo, and it seems like he's kind of on his own run right now, and maybe could get jump started to something. So, unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer right now as I try to like rack my brain across the roster. But like, even if it's just the three of them, I'm totally fine with that. I don't think it has to be an Evolution 2.0. Like, just kind of be your own thing, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I would like Austin Theory, break him away from Waller. They need something to take him serious because he's just such a joke right now. And you know that they have high hopes for him. I like Carmelo Hayes as an option too. But you know, some of these guys, as our good buddy Corey Long reminded me last night, he's like, when they do and they get into some scraps with the baby faces, somebody has to take losses. And I don't know if Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins are going to be taking a bunch of losses. TB Punk film saying Trick Williams. I wouldn't hate Trick Williams. I wouldn't be surprised if they go down to NXT. I know another talk has been Fraxium with Nathan Fraser and Axiom. Have him take off his mask, the tag team from NXT. I wouldn't hate that either. It's got to be somebody fresher, somebody newer, somebody that can really utilize this. And that's why, you know, as much as I would love to see like a Drew McIntyre, it doesn't make sense for him. I need a young guy to be able to step up. And then night 2, John Cena, Cody Rhodes. What did you make of that whole thing? I was surprised, and I'm not thrilled with The Rock's comments on Pat McAfee. You're the guy that spearheaded this whole thing. Rock said that Ari Emanuel contacted him from TKO. They were worried about ticket sales being soft for Elimination Chamber. The Rock comes. They do that incredible ending. And that ending was better than WrestleMania Night 2. What did you make of Cena winning, Travis Scott being there, and The Rock not being there?
We should be thanking John Cena that we got to witness history. John Cena winning his 17th championship. We are all witnesses. We are all a part of history. Well deserved for John Cena. And he's absolutely right with everything that he said. You're all herds of sheep. You all just follow one way or another and say, give me more, give me more. Oh, I predicted this. I didn't get it. Therefore, I'm upset. Oh, but you still like me and you're going to root for me. And all Cody Rhodes does is pander to the crowd. And now you're booing him. Have people not been listening to John Cena? He said, I am going to ruin wrestling. I'm going to win the belt and I'm going to ruin wrestling. And what happened? Travis Scott took an hour and a half to get down the ramp and then finally interfered. There wasn't The Rock. People are upset. They are angry. This is exactly how John Cena drew it up. He is going to ruin wrestling. And good for you, John Cena, because you did everything right, and people were still mad at you, and they were still pissed at you for years. And all of a sudden, they want to say, thank you, John. And he's like, nah, I don't need your thank yous because I'm going to take the title home with me. I thought it was a great main event finish. Travis Scott played his part. Cody got his receipt back on him hitting his finisher, but the right guy won, and I'm very excited to see what happens moving forward.
Him against Randy Orton. You down with that?
I'm down with the build and the promos and the talking crap to each other. I don't think the match is going to be all that great. No. I hope it's a no DQ match where everything get involved. Because
it's Backlash is in St. Louis, so it makes a lot of sense. For sure. I did see something yesterday online about John Cena winning Money in the Bank and then just throwing the briefcase.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. Yeah, if he's going to ruin wrestling, and he has. In all seriousness, The Rock being like, "Oh, I didn't want to be a part of it," when the whole story was about him was ridiculous. So, like that part, I do agree with.
I think that's how he got him. That's how I think he could have got more heat. As much as I love that John Cena is getting this, the one thing that I don't like is that we've gotten to a point now where John's doing all these things. He's acting a certain way, but and I love that Triple H is so involved, and I love that he tries to listen to the fans, but sometimes they miss on heel turns for people that they don't want to, like, fans don't want to boo, right? Like, nobody wants to boo John Cena. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand he's trying to ruin wrestling. I understand that's the route they're trying to go to make him a heel. But man, if you listen to the promo on Monday night, like, people want to celebrate John Cena breaking the record. This is something that has been talked about for so long. And like, I feel like, and I understand that's the gimmick. You want to ruin wrestling, but Matt, as a wrestling fan, like, I wanted to celebrate John Cena. I'm not going to look back on that and be like, oh, wow, that was such a great storyline. I'm going to be looking back on that as like, dude, John Cena should have been celebrated for breaking the most prestigious record in wrestling. But instead, we like have to go with the storyline because of what happened with The Rock. I just feel like WWE is missing the boat a little bit on this entire thing. And I give John Cena all the credit in the world because I think so many of other people would have screwed this up so bad. He's putting on a masterful performance, but regardless, the fans want what they want. They want to cheer John Cena.
They still do want to cheer him whenever he comes out. I think with him turning heel, it was always that, oh, what if he turned heel? Right. Or it's like, oh, he's going to retire, and we never saw him turn heel, even though you could argue the Doctor of Thugonomics was a heel when he started out. But, that was still like 25 years ago. I don't know. What if he wins that Money in the Bank and says, oh, I'm never going to use it. Like, screw you guys. I'm going to be the champ. Then he loses the title, say it like SummerSlam or something like that, and then goes on the babyface tour for, the last 2 months of his career. And then he goes, hey, I forgot. I still have that Money in the Bank. And he wins the title one more time. And now he's an 18-time champion. And he goes out as a babyface.
I love that. And that's why, and I know when we had our roundtable last week, everybody was picking Cena. And that's why I was trying to think the other way around. I was trying to think, like, what if he lost at WrestleMania and then got his heat by just beating the crap out of Cody? Maybe like he hits the AA on Brandy, right? Like, does something like
in front of their daughter.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, do something where you get major heat, and
that would have been dastardly.
Exactly. Like, I want it to be something evil, right? Like what Randy Orton used to do, and he punted Cena's dad in the head all these years ago. And then the way that he gets the belt, like, there's no way that this year ends with him going back babyface, right? So, like, that's my whole thing. Like, I don't know how much longer you can hold on to this. He's going to lose the belt eventually. Right, but to who?
I don't know. I think he's taking it with him.
Yeah, man. Right. You're totally.
I will say I am slightly tired of. So the last 3 promos in between, like the WrestleMania match, it was him and Cody. Cody ends it with doing the finisher. Then it was the Friday right before WrestleMania. It's him and Cody. Cody just ends up doing the finisher to him, and that's it. And then on Monday, it was him cutting a promo. Randy Orton hits the RKO, and that's it. That's the end of the finisher. At some point, John's got to get the other shot on the opponent. And I get it, like, he beat the crap out of Cody at the Elimination Chamber. But at some point, like, storylines go through it with the heel beating the crap out of the babyface. And it's like, oh, my God, he's going to get his revenge at the PLE now. And so I'm hoping he'll get one back on Randy Orton, because it can't just be John Cena gets knocked out every single promo and then wins the title in a heelish way.
You got that right. Matt Matera, Pewter Report, Matty4_Matera. Check out Pewter Report. They're going live all weekend long, man. Right there at One Buccaneer Place, the Advent Health Training Center. They were live last night. I tuned in for a little bit. There was a ton. I think you had 1,000. There's so many viewers last night. Yeah. I know you guys will be live today and tomorrow, correct? What times?
Yeah, we always start an hour before the draft starts. So tonight we start at 6 p.m. on our YouTube channel. You can see it on pewterreport.com as well. And then Saturday we start at 11 a.m.
Awesome stuff. Matt, you are the best. Give my love to Scott and everybody. And happy draft weekend, buddy. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, Jay. Appreciate you.
You got it, man. Matt Matera, always bringing the heat. Our friends at Pewter Report, they are crushing it. I love that they go live there from $1 during the draft, and they'll like pop out, pop in, pop out. Got to go do the press conference with Jason Light and the player. I've been on with them in years past. It's just so much fun. It really is. And I mean, the Bucs, I don't want to say it was a shock, but a mild surprise going with receiver at 19. Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, and this is a guy that's a pro's pro. He is ready to roll. A very similar player to a guy like Chris Godwin, does his best work out of the slots, but a guy that's wise beyond his years. So I'm excited to see what they can do. As much as I don't necessarily agree with the selection, hey, that's why Jason Licht gets paid the big bucks, and we'll see if that comes to fruition. Not the biggest shock last night at all. I think this move would probably be that. So our guy, Jamal St. here, has now taken time away from taste testing ranch dressing soda. My brother, I'm going through social media today, and I'm getting ready to get ready for the day, and all of a sudden I stop in this video, and it's funny what you see when you scroll on social media, and I'm like, I didn't see who it was, and I'm like, ranch dressing soda, what the hell is this? And then I see it's you, and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to ask him about this today.
It's as bad as it sounds.
It's local TV.
I would not
local
recommend
TV
it
and
for
local radio,
anybody.
man. It's still to this day be doing things like that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, you're giving it a -5?
I'm giving it a no, and absolutely not. It's like a -10. Matter of fact, with the theme, it's a -12.
Oh my God, that's terrible. Did you taste test anything else, or was that just it?
Yeah, there was the ranch soda. There was a carrot cake soda. The carrot cake wasn't awful.
Okay.
And there was a peanut butter and jelly. The peanut butter and jelly one really didn't taste like anything.
It's funny when they have these big tastes. It tastes like this, and it's like, yeah, I don't know so much about that.
Yeah.
So you and I spoke about a month ago, and we were. And I was hoping for you guys. We were talking about Mason Graham. Everybody was saying Mason Graham. And then right at the end of the chat, it was like, well, maybe Ashton Jeanty, maybe that's going to be the guy. Yeah. And we started to hear a lot more about that in the last 2 weeks. Like, Jeanty could be the guy. I said, Jamal and I, we were all over this a month ago. What are you guys talking about?
Ahead of the curve.
Way ahead of the curve. And then I'm at the Lightning game last night, and then you start hearing the noise. Right. The Jags might be trading up for number 2, and they might be trading up for Travis Hunter. Listen, one thing that we've heard a lot, I mean, I mentioned Emeka Egbuka for the Bucs. That was a little bit of surprise, a couple surprise here and there, but there's been a lot of things that people have speculated. The Giants trading back in for Jackson Dart, Shadour Sanders maybe slipping out of the first round. A lot of sources have been kind of, spot on with this being one of them. When was the first time that you heard that there was a possibility that the Jags were going to trade up to 2?
It was not long before the draft kind of got wind of it. I mean, we talked to James Gladstone last night. He said he'd been working on this thing for 2 weeks. It had just been under wraps. I don't know. I guess it got out the night before because Travis Hunter said he knew. So he had been on Zillow looking at houses, but they had done a great job. I mean, I talked to Tony Baselli yesterday before the draft, and he says this is exactly how we want it. We don't want anybody to know what we're going to do until we're on the clock. The only thing he did say, he said, I promise Jaguars fans won't be disappointed with what we do tonight. And that was foretelling because they definitely were not disappointed with what they did. So it worked out. One thing, Tony definitely told us the truth.
No doubt, man. What was the reaction? Was it Travis Hunter then? As soon as the trade was announced, did anybody think that it was anybody else?
No, I don't. I think everybody kind of knew it was Travis Hunter. I was kind of holding off. So we were doing draft stuff. So we were over at the Jaguars draft party, and I'd gotten a little heard the rumors early enough that I'd had them prepare some Travis Hunter stuff, and I'm just thinking in the back of my head, oh man, I didn't do Abdul Carter. And one of those laws of averages, just because I didn't, it would be him instead. But we were at the draft party, and I'm looking at my computer, and we're doing our broadcast, and I knew the trade had happened, and before everybody there did. So it was kind of cool to be able to all right, I know this is happening. You're kind of looking around and watching, waiting for it to go on the TVs there to where everybody else goes into that shock moment. So you kind of had that heads up to look for it kind of thing,
Yeah, I have that when I'm at games and stuff. We're like, oh, that goal or that hit or that score was huge. And you just wait and you're looking at social media waiting for everybody to freak out. And then everything just goes crazy. So what was it like? Travis Hunter, the pick gets announced. What was it? It was a hysteria. Was it nobody was disappointed, were they?
No. I mean, there was a couple of angry folks on social media about trading a future first, but I mean, look, there's no way around it. The Jaguars have never traded a future first, so this is different, and people are used to like the Jaguars operating in one way, and James Gladstone and Liam Cohen and this new era Jaguars are pretty content that they're not going to operate that same way. And I mean, Gladstone said last night he's pretty accustomed with the philosophy of F them picks. Like, so he threw next year's first out the window and went and got a guy. But to his point, he said that Travis Hunter would have been a first-round pick at a wide receiver and a first-round pick at a corner. So he just went ahead and spent both first-round picks and moved on.
I love that. I love that mindset. So that the Gladstone, Liam Cohen, Tony Baselli right now, they have to be like walking on water right now in Jacksonville. Everybody's got to be thrilled with the change.
Floating.
Yeah.
They were floating into the room last night. So excited about it. I mean, the video in the draft room, they're high-fiving. Everybody's happy going in to talk to media. I mean, they were absolutely glowing. And they're just, I mean, yeah, they're on cloud nine, man.
All right. So what's the plan now? And that's the one thing that I have, and I know I'm in the vocal minority with this. I have my reservations about Travis Hunter because if you're going to play both sides of the ball, man, it's just natural. It's not college. It's the NFL.
Well,
people are going to go after you. They're going to try to mess with you. They're going to try to listen, just takes the toll on your body. I mean, part of the reason that we don't see people do that is not because they can't physically do it. There might be some. I mean, it is an incredible athletic accomplishment, bar none. But there's just a physical toll that it takes too. Yeah. And I think that's where my concern comes in is, well, what if he does get banged up and can only play one side of the ball? He is a great player, but if he's compromised on one side, might get compromised on the other. How do you think what have they said about where they're going to deploy him? How much of the two-way Travis Hunter are we going to see?
They've said that his natural position they feel like is corner, but they're going to start him off early on heavily in the offensive meetings because that's where the nuance is and they need him to learn the playbook and things there. So their plan is to have him play both sides of the ball. I can't imagine it's going to be Iron Man, every snap on both sides of the ball, just because that, as you mentioned, incredibly taxing on his body to pull off. But I mean, even in the draft call, I mean, Coach Campanelli, the Jaguars defensive coordinator, was one of the guys that talked to him. He told him he was the most excited guy in the room. So there's a plan for him to play defense, and they're planning on starting him off in those offensive meetings because they say that's where he needs the growth areas and the nuance. So there's a plan for him to play on offense too. So the expectation is you're going to see him on both sides of the ball. How much? I think we're kind of in a wait and see kind of moment on that. I think they said they don't want to overload him early on, but they're going to see what he can handle and keep adding to his plate. I mean, that's what you tend to do with most rookies. You see what they can handle, and then you stack more and more responsibilities. So we'll see.
Where would you rank the excitement right now in Duval when it comes to a guy like Travis Hunter? I mean, this is more excited than when they drafted Trevor Lawrence, you think?
I mean, that's tough. That was different. Mm-hmm. That was a little different. But, I mean, right now, the way it stands, I mean, I think he's got the most star power on the team. He's the most – I mean, and Brian Thomas Jr. is a star in the NFL, but, I mean, he doesn't have the same sort of, like, national acclaim that Travis Hunter does. And, I mean, because of the struggles the Jaguars have had and Trevor's, I mean, record in the NFL, he doesn't have nearly the star shine that he had coming out of college. So, I mean, I think Travis Hunter has the most star power on the team. So people are through the roof. I mean, those jerseys are going to sell. They'll sell fast.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's got one of the highest jerseys sold next year out of anybody in the National Football League. What does this mean for a guy like Travis Etienne? Because we were talking about him, and if you pick Genty, then you're looking for a new home there. Where do the Jags go here from here on out? Do they look at a running back in the draft at some point? Where's round 2, 3, and beyond now as they try to fortify it and build up this roster?
We'll see. Look, there's no second round pick. They traded that to the Browns, but they do have a pair of picks in the third round. So they got a lot of work left to do. Their plan is to bring in a lot of guys. I mean, right now they have the least amount of players on the roster in the NFL. 59 guys on the roster. So they are going to have a decent-sized draft class and a whole bunch of undrafted free agents that are going to come to camp. And they're trying to do this because they want everything to be competition. They want it to be an insanely competitive environment. They're going to give these young guys a chance to earn spots. And the older guys, you're going to have to compete to hold it down. So, I mean, Travis Etienne, I mean, he's kind of the lead dog in the house at running back right now, but Tank Bigsby ain't just going to give it to him, and he's in the building.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in another running back before the draft is over. They weren't completely out on Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
If there was something that happened and they couldn't move off of 5, he would have definitely been a guy that was in the conversation if they had to sit there and take a player. So I don't think they're just going to say, oh, we're good at running back. I mean, they need to add running backs to the roster, period, just for, numbers. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that Travis Etienne is in as much danger of losing his job as maybe he was if they took an Ashton Genty, right?
Liam Cohn is going to be looking for his Bucky Irving. He is going to try to find a guy, and that's, you're looking at some of these different dudes out there. Watch the Martinez kid out of Miami. I look at one of the two
Damian
guys.
Martinez. Oh, man, I love that dude.
I mean, Damian, I think that could be a guy right there. Don't be surprised. Ohio State running backs. Jughead's is a load, bro. I don't know if he's not the same thing as a guy like Bucky. I got basketball on the brain too.
But they got a guy from Rutgers, Kyle Monungai. I love. Yep. He would be the Jaguar. He's a fantastic pass blocking back, which is what Tank and Travis both struggle with. DJ Giddens, K-State.
Yeah,
he's good too. I think I would be surprised if they leave this draft without getting a running back, just because right now they have 2 on the roster.
Yeah, no doubt.
You got to add for numbers anyway.
What else stood out to you about the NFL draft last night? Any big surprises, either guys that did get selected or didn't get selected?
I mean, I think outside of the Jaguars, the biggest surprise to me, the Falcons trading back in for James Pierce. Mm-hmm. I mean, giving up that first round pick, I mean, that seems like a hefty price to pay to go back for that guy in the draft. I mean, I know they needed to improve on defense. They got to improve that pass rush, but that was a hefty price. And I mean, maybe the most easy thing that we should have all seen coming was Malachi Starks landing in Baltimore. I mean, that just seems like the prototypical Ravens pick. They sit there, everybody else says, "Oh, he's not a great athlete," and they just draft him, and then he goes out there and he's great. And everybody's like, "What happened?" I mean, Kyle Hamilton 2.0 is the same thing. So it's like the ultimate Ravens pick was Malachi Starks just falling in their laps.
I feel like the Ravens and the Eagles do that every year, where everybody's like, "Oh, I have this question about this guy, and this guy's got some injury concerns." And the Ravens and the Eagles that draft somewhere between like 24 and 32 every year, we're like, "Bring him in, bring him over here, bring him over here. We'll take him." Like this guy, Jahad Campbell's got 2 bad shoulders, and he's Alabama kid, and all of a sudden he's just going to sit his ass on the sideline. And he'll come out at some time, and then at week 12 he'll win NFC Player of the Week. Right? It's just like the rich get richer. That's why I don't buy. And I want to hear if you agree with this. People are always saying in sports, like, "Oh, you can't do well if you draft at the end of the first round." Why? Why can't you do well at the end of the first round? There in any sport, you can find a guy if you take some chances on certain guys. But man, if you identify, you just said this, and I think this is one of the things that people don't do. He's a Ravens type player. It's the same thing that they did last year. Who was the corner that they took out of Clemson? I forgot his name, but there was another. Yes, Wiggins, right? So they said he is a Ravens type player. You don't get the ability to say things about a team unless you have an incredible culture established there. I don't care if you draft the guy 5, 15, or 55. You get a Ravens or an Eagles, or even like in the last couple of years, Niners type player. Like, that's what you want. That's the kind of culture that you want to build. And you're right. Like every year, those guys draft better than teams that are drafting at the top.
It is. Look, I mean, honestly, that's the key to this thing is you got to have a type and go and put those pieces in place where they got to be. I mean, and sometimes it all comes together for folks. But, I mean, I agree with you that you don't have to draft at the top of the first round. I mean, the Jaguars I went back and through their draft history. They've drafted in the top of the first round more times than not through franchise history, and that hasn't necessarily helped them a whole lot. Look, it's about going and get your guys. Look at the Rams, and that's where James Gladstone comes from, Jaguars GM. How many years did they not even have a first-round pick? Because they kept dealing them off to go get people. They were years without them, and they were still able to nail their picks. I mean, I was asking one of our guys here last night. I said, look, he's betting that he's going to nail day 3 picks to get at least solid starters. And I said, the Jaguars spent a 3rd-round pick on Tank Bigsby and a 1st-round pick on Travis Etienne. And they're both solid players. But would you take either one of them over Kyron Williams?
No way.
And Kyron Williams was a 5th-round pick.
Exactly.
That's what they're betting on. You can find guys on every day and every round but you got to know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to ask the guys, and I guess this is a Gladstoneism at this point, to be exactly who they are, be nothing more than themselves. If you draft a guy who's really good at one thing and then ask him to do something else, you shouldn't be surprised that he can't do it.
Right. Yeah, I look at we see that here with the Bucs, right? We look at Chris Godwin, a 3rd-round pick. We look at Buck Irving, a 4th-round pick. Jalen McMillan, a 3rd-round pick. That's where these guys make their hay. They make their hay in the middle rounds, right? They don't. It's 1st-round picks are great. I like guys taking a opportunity. I like what the Jags did, man. F them picks. Go out there and give some excitement to your fan base. That's going to help you in the long run. What's your thoughts, man, on Shadour Sanders not going in round 1? Surprised by that at all?
Not terribly. I mean, look, Shadour, I think, will be a good quarterback in the NFL for a long time, but I don't know that he's necessarily a superstar. I think I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said just watching him play, and like he almost reminds me of Andy Dalton a little bit. Like the arm's not crazy elite, but I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Just not a great quarterback. So that doesn't surprise me. Andy Dalton was also a 2nd-round pick. And so and especially with the way the NFL is now, where if any team that doesn't have what they feel like is the guy, they're looking for that guy. They're not okay with just like Andy Dalton wouldn't start for as long now in today's NFL as he did when he was playing at his peak. So like, that's the thing that I would do.
Yeah, I think you're getting farther and farther away from the traditional pocket passers. And if you don't have that running element, even if you're just even if it's more escapability, like a Joe Burrow, right? Rather than a guy that's going to be run first, like a Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. I don't say run first, but, running being a big time proponent.
Right.
You're going to struggle and then there's a lot of teams that don't necessarily need a quarterback. And the Giants going to get Jackson Dart. They want that athleticism because of what a guy like Dable was able to do with Josh Allen there in Buffalo. Well, what do you got going on for the rest of the weekend, man? What's your coverage looking like up there at JXT?
Hey, we got Travis Hunter getting ready to have his intro press conference here in a little over 30 minutes. So I'm getting ready to head over to the MEC, see if we can chat with Travis a little bit. And then rounds 2 and 3, Jaguars still got a lot of picks scrolling out. So we're over here. We'll be keeping track of all the Jaguar stuff over on newsforjax.com, trying to see what that draft class can kind of come together and look like.
Make sure you get him to give you a solid Duval, a better than Liam Cohen Duval, and welcome him back to the state of the Florida. Jamal St here, Jay St Cyr, TV there, always doing a great job. I was happy for one reason and one reason only, and that was because of you, my friend, because I love Travis Hunter. Stuff like that is a lot of fun, my buddy. Thank you so much for joining me. Talk to you again soon, man.
All right, deal. See you, Jay.
You got it, man. Jamal St here, the man up there in Jacksonville. I'm so happy we've been able to establish that relationship. He is crushing it up there in Jags land in Duval Nation. Listen, stuff like this is better for football. I love crazy trades the day of, and it's exciting, man. It's exciting. I love it. Trying to keep a close eye on so John Cooper just spoke over at I'm just trying to give you guys all the information. I know that Eric Erlandsson is on his way home. He's going to join us. Anthony Sorelli, Yanni Gord not practicing today. It should be okay. John Cooper said the lines were Gensel, Point, Kucherov. We saw that get back together. It was Point, Kucherov, and Gonsalves to start the game, and then Gensel got bumped up there. Then Geeky, Paul, and Gonsalves, Jurgensen's, Glendening, and Atkinson, and then Hagel, Geeky, Shafee. I wonder if I really wonder if they have an idea if he's going to get suspended or not. That's why he wasn't taking a ton of line rushes. It's sucks, man. Sucks. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Make sure you share and subscribe everything that we're doing here on the program. Every single little bit helps. If you've never subscribed, just hit that notifications bell so you know when we go live here on the program, because you never know when we're going to go live. I wasn't planning on going live last night, live from Emily Arena, but I had the urge, and I didn't go live during the day yesterday because I wasn't feeling well, but I did. And then our pal Tom Kresnicki joined us, and we talked some Buccaneers and we talked some Lightning, and got to show some love to the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, we knew that it was going to be a tough series going there to Arizona. They lose the first game 5-1. It's like, here we go again, but they win Wednesday night in 11. They win Thursday night in 10. The bullpen coming up big 3-run 10th inning. This is what you got to see from the guys. You have to see them come up big and have some road victories. And listen, they're down 4-1. And then they battle back. Christopher Morel coming up with the double. Yandy Diaz with a big single in the 9th to tie it up. And then Caminero with the double. Christopher Morel with the big fly. And this is what you needed to see from Chris Morel. When he came across in the trade with the Cubbies, you get rid of Isak Paredes, who did a lot of great things for the Rays. And now you're seeing Morel, that batting average climbing to 268, now 2 for 5 with those 3 ribbies. And how about Yandy Diaz starting to get into his groove, 3 for 5 last night, that average up to 248 as well. So, okay, Chandler Simpson in the lineup, batting 316. And one thing I love about Chandler Simpson, and we'll go into this more in detail over the next couple of weeks, but I absolutely love that a guy like Chandler Simpson is with the Rays, and I hope he plays as many days as possible. I've long said that the Rays need to find ways to get more creative offensively, and they've done such a great job over the years of being on the cutting edge when it comes to pitching and when it comes to defense and openers and shifts and all that. They have to do that offensively. They have to get more creative. They have to do things more unconventional, more bunting, more stealing, more hitting and running, more. Don't do what the Yankees are doing. You can't pay that kind of money for 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. That's not going to be your game. So do something different. When you look at the batting stance for Chandler Simpson and how he swings the bat, it's like you're not going to – that's him. That's one of one. You aren't going to have him swing the bat. You're not going to have your kid swing the bat like Chandler Simpson, and that's completely fine. That is fine. I love it. Slap, put the ball in play, and run, rabbit, run. Go, 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 go. I love it. I think Chandler Simpson is a huge addition to this team, and he shouldn't go anywhere. Even if he's not playing, he's your first guy off the bench as a pinch runner. That's the kind of guy that is going to strike fear into the opposition. Other than Junior Caminero, I don't know if anybody strikes fear into the hearts of the opposing pitchers and defense. Chandler Simpson does that. I love it. I think it makes so much sense. I want to see more and more and more. Keep this kid with the team. He shouldn't get sent down at all. Please don't send him down. Please don't send him down. Even I wouldn't bat him leadoff. Okay. But he is a guy, I think you put him anywhere between 7 and you probably don't want to bat him 9 because you don't want to tie him up behind Yandy. So I kind of like where they had him last night. Because I don't know if he's going to be able to take enough walks to be a leadoff hitter. But if you have him at 8, I think maybe even 7, right? Put him at 7, put him at 8, give him in that spot right there where if he can just slap, put the ball in play, and strike fear in the opposing pitching staff and defense, I think they got themselves a good one. So when everybody's healthy, is he my everyday center fielder? I mean, probably. And then you have Josh Lowe in right, and then you have Morel in left, Miser in left. You know what your infield's going to be looking like with Yandy, Lau. Kim will be here soon instead of Walls, and then Caminero, and whether it's a Jansen or Rortvedt behind the plate, but he's got to play. And I know Dave Terry saying Simpson needs to leave off. Maybe. I think when you think of like the prototypical speed, right, Dave? You think about the prototypical leadoff hitter. Yeah, I just don't know if he walks enough. I don't know if he's got to take his walks. He's got 1 walk in 19 at-bats, so 20 plate appearances, 4 strikeouts. That's another good thing. He puts the ball in play. He's had 4 strikeouts so far. 2 of them come in the game last night where he was 1 for 4. I like it. I think this is the type of guy that It excites you as a Rays fan. You want to talk about excitement? He's got a hit in every single game he's played in so far. He's 6 for 19. He's got a 5-game hitting streak. That guy, don't come out of the lineup. Stay out there. Stay out there, man. Stay out there. Tubero saying he makes contact, the walks will come in time. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know about that. You would hope. You would hope so. And I'm with you, because if he does walk, then yeah, okay, I got no problem with him batting leadoff. But I like having a little bit of a different look offensively as a leadoff hitter. Maybe batting him leadoff and having Yandy bat too. I'm open for anything. When you're looking at the Rays offense, this is what I've harped on and complained about for so long, is that this team has to do things differently on offense. Mix it up. Put a guy like Chandler Simpson in there, bat him leadoff, bat him ninth. I don't care what you do. But that is a big reason why they were able to win these 2 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And you're going to have to keep deploying that. You're going to have to keep doing it, starting tonight against San Diego. Shane Baz on the mound against Michael King. They have experience going against Michael King when he was with the Yankees. He went to San Diego in that trade for Juan Soto. That's a 9:40 start tonight, 8:40 tomorrow. Ryan Pepiot against Dylan Cease. And then Sunday, San Diego rolling out TBD against Zach Littell, 0-5. With a 5.28 ERA. A tough start to the year for Zach Littell, and you have to wonder, if his time is running low with the Rays, especially with a guy like Joe Boyle there in the minors. Eric Erlandsson is going to join us in a couple of minutes. I want to get to some of the other things for the draft, and we'll do that here while we wait for Double E. I wasn't surprised that Shadour Sanders did not get drafted in the first round. And for all the people that are crying like racism or crying that like his dad and blah, 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 like I get it. I get it. There's a lot of reasons why people are not going to draft him. But like, let's keep things in perspective here. We heard this for the last couple of weeks. We've heard that Shadour Sanders was falling down draft boards. And that it wasn't such a clear cut, oh, he's going, 2, 3. I mean, listen, we've had this in years past as well. So Malik Willis, there was people who thought Malik Willis a couple of years ago was going to be a first-round pick. Will Levis, right? Neither one of those guys went in the first round. So as much as people want to say Deion has something to do with it, maybe it does. But there's also athletic shortcomings that people are not thrilled with. And they did not like how he interviewed. And for people that are complaining about anonymous sources, put your name on it. No, that's not the way it works. How do you think you get information? People aren't going to, everybody in press conferences everywhere are saying that everybody's such a great player and a great guy. But then behind closed doors, they have different opinions because they're trying to be respectful of the kid. And maybe if somebody else sees it different, listen, you could take anonymous sources with a grain of salt, right? At the end of the day, it's your evaluation. It's what you think of the kid. That's going to put you in a position to take him or not. But for all the people out there that are saying like it's BS and it's this big, it's a smoke show or they're just trying to make the kid feel better. Listen, if there was other teams out there that liked him that much, they would have drafted him. And this isn't something that just happened a couple of days ago. Weeks ago, our pal Trevor Sycamore from Pro Football Focus was on the Dan Patrick Show. Trevor is one of the fastest rising stars in media. He is a guy that is just so respected and revered around the country. And he went on Dan Patrick saying multiple people told him at the combine that they were not high on Shadour Sanders. They were not high on him because of the way he interviewed. And the tape really doesn't back it up. Where we're in a game and we're in a league right now where the traditional pocket passer is going by the wayside. And you want your quarterback to be more athletic. Just look at the 2 guys that were in the Super Bowl last year. Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Guys like Tom Brady, they're donezo. Just not happening. So when you have all of these things, and it's almost like we talk about the Ray Stadium stuff, it's not just the quality of the issues, it's the quantity of the issues. And I don't, for me, it's not a surprise. And I think it's BS when people say all of these things and it's everything other than what it really is. And he's just not good enough. Sorry about your damn luck, as Beer Money used to say back in the day. All right, 1 second here. I'm just going to post it because we're our little elites. Eric Erlandsson is going to join us here in a second. And shut up. Rocking my UT hoodie today. They're up 3-0 over Eckerd. So good luck to the Spartans. And let's bring them in. LightingInsider.com's own Eric Erlandsson joins us. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitter. Eric_Erlandsson. That's a K, not a C. 2 S's after the D with a fresh haircut on 3. 1, 2, 3, fresh cut. And then J and Z. Use that promo code. Now's the time. If you want to be able to sign up for LightingInsider.com. Double E, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
What a day. What a day it's already been. It's crazy.
Tell me, what's the craziest part of your day?
Well, it starts with the 4 hours of sleep and the scrambling to do all the media interviews today. The Lighting weren't supposed to practice, and then they practiced, and they push practice back. Yeah, and I'm not even packed to leave. We were going to leave like in the next 10 minutes, and I'm not even packed yet. So
sorry.
Had to change a doctor's appointment this morning because of the timing change. It's been one of those days.
Oh my gosh. So what was the big takeaway from practice today? We'll talk about the Hagel stuff in a second, but other than that, what was kind of the chatter around Amalie today?
Well, being down 0-2 and, it certainly is not an ideal situation. And, but they liked the way they played. They gave themselves a chance to win the game last night. And, it's like my thought process here is they went through this kind of a thing in January where they were defending well and the chances they were creating weren't going in, and they were good chances, just like last night.
Right.
Problem is you can't work your way through it in the playoffs. You got to push your way through it. And so that has to be their approach going into tomorrow's game. So Brandon Hagel.
Brandon, did we have the news yet?
No. He's getting a hearing, but
what do you think?
When you get a hearing, I've been around this league a long time. I've only seen once a guy have a hearing and not get suspended. Jeez. So the odds of him only getting a fine out of this, you'll see. I mean, I think he has a decent argument to make, but my guess is the league won't buy it, and he's probably going to miss game 3.
What goes into that? And before I get your opinion on the hit, because I've been very vocal, and I tweeted out last night, definitely going to be in the Tampa Bay minority here, but that was a totally unnecessary hit by Hagel and the right call extending it to a major. Bucs Nation would want that call if it happened to Kucherov or Point. Eric, I posted that at 9 p.m. It's got 29,000 views. The majority of them are unhappy Lightning fans and Florida Panthers fans that finally have a new follow from the Tampa Bay area. They love me now. What is your...
That'll change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, because just read the rest of my timeline. But before your opinion on the hit, do you think that them upgrading it to a major and them making that decision so quickly, because the review did not take long, how does that help or hurt or just affect how the league looks at it altogether? And that process when they talk about it and when they analyze the hit, is that just the referees making that call? Is there any type of discussion with the league or in Toronto when that happens on the ice last night?
Ultimately, it's the referee's call. I don't think in those situations they could be in contact with the war room. I don't think so, though. But ultimately, it comes down to the referee. And, maybe sometimes the referees are just looking for a clarification of the rule and the interpretation. And so I'm sure what they saw on the replay last night was the puck was not played by Barkov.
Right.
And the proximity of where the puck was made, where the puck was when the contact was made. It was a decent distance away. So those would be the criteria that the referees would have looked at last night on the review, and that would definitely be the criteria for what the league is looking at today, player safety is looking at today, in determining whether or not suspension is worthy here. So that would be the determination factor. They'll call Hagel. The team was scheduled to fly at 2, so I don't know if he has the hearing before. He was on the ice today. I don't know if that phone call would take place before they get on that plane or take place after. My guess is it would be after, so they don't rush through something like this. So if we get word, it probably won't be until probably around 5 o'clock or so.
Do you think the Lightning are preparing for him to be suspended?
They better be.
Yeah,
they have to. I mean, we know how it works. Like I said, the one time, ironically enough, the one guy who did not get a suspension after a hearing was Tom Wilson, who made an argument, and in the explanation from the league, they
bought it.
However, bought it, whatever he was selling, like however you want to phrase it. They rationalized that made sense for Tom Wilson, and that's why for me in this case, when you look at it on tape, obviously it looks bad. I mean, it's a late hit. It's contact into the boards, but it's shoulder to chest, so it's not a dirty hit. But when you look at it, and this is probably what Hagel's argument's going to be. When you look at that in real speed, you don't know if that's McDonough that touched the puck or Barkov that touched the puck, right? Like both their sticks are right there, and they're both kind of being used in the same motion, trying to push the puck forward. McDonough got it, Barkov didn't, so he didn't touch the puck, so that's why it's interference,
right?
And the reason it was upgraded is because they felt it was so late. But if I'm Hagel, and if you look at the angle of where he's coming from, I don't know that he could determine who touched the puck or not. And maybe that's where the onus has to be on him. If you don't know, you don't make the hit.
Right. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with that thing.
But like, this is playoff hockey. And if he doesn't finish an opportunity like that, and he could have, like if Barkov, and remember, he's making this decision in a
split second,
fraction of a second,
mm-hmm.
right? And the players know. So I think that's probably what Hagel's argument would be to the league, and we'll see if they can buy it. That they probably won't. Again, he's getting a hearing. He's probably getting suspended. The thing that I look at too, how did the Florida players react to it? Nobody ran at Hagel after that. Nobody came to the defense of their captain as he's lying down. So I'm not even sure the Panthers thought it was that bad of a hit.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes the players on the ice, because how many times do we see players come to the rescue or come to the defense of a player after what they feel is a bad hit, even when we know looking at it, it was a clean hit. So the fact that nobody in a very spirited game even gave Hagel a look. Now, there was a lot of chirping going on for sure.
Yeah.
But the Panthers didn't even react like they thought it was a terrible hit. So,
yeah.
But again, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think. All that matters is what player safety thinks. And based on everything that I've learned through my years, Brandon Hagel will not be available for Game 3. I'd be surprised if he's only gets a fine out of this.
Yeah, one thing that I was keeping an eye on that whole thing was that, like, it happened away from the eye side. Like, it happened because I think you already went downstairs by then, right? At that time. So it happened like right in our pit in our path, right? Where we're lucky. We're lucky. Like, when things happen in that corner, we have the view, and I saw it clear as day that McDonough got the stick on it. Barkov was trying to pick it up, and as soon as the hit was made, I turned to Chief and I go, "That's going to be 5." And he goes, "No way." And I go, "It's going to be 5." And they reviewed, and when the review went by quick, I was like, "Oh my God." And the thing is that the puck was around the board so quickly that everybody else was following the puck. So I don't even think, and remember, the Panthers only had 4 guys on the ice at that time too. So only 3 guys actually on the ice then outside of the goalie. So those guys are looking at the puck. They aren't necessarily looking at what was happening in that opposite corner at the time. And there was some of the guys that were actually going in that direction to say something to Hagel, but by then they were already taking him off. So they didn't even really have a chance, the few guys that they had on the ice, to be able to go over there and say or do anything. But do you think it had anything to do with Hagel being hit by Verhaeghe? Because I think that one of the hit from Verhaeghe on Hagel was bad. And whether we agree or disagree, or whether the league disagree, part of the reason why it was upgraded to a 5 was because Barkov is a big man and he was down on the ice for a considerable amount of time. The reason why they didn't even review Hagel's hit for Hagel, which was a clear boarding call, if Hagel stays down for a good 60 seconds, they're going to the monitor and checking for 5. But he got right away, and you pointed out to me, Jay, he's barking and he's talking to the other team. Like, part of what happens at the end, whether it's fair or not, that has something to do with it too.
I think the temperature of the game had, that factors in. And again, and Brendan Hagel's an emotional guy. Like,
right.
He wears his heart on his sleeve. So I think that making that decision in that fraction, I think that factors into it.
Right.
I mean, Florida's been chirping the whole time that they're going to hurt Lightning's players, right? We've seen them make runs at Kucherov. We've seen them make runs at Hagel, at Point. I mean, they're making runs at Tampa Bay's best players. And, if you're a player on the Lightning and you hear that and you see that and the referees aren't doing anything about it, sometimes that, it does. I don't want to say snap,
but you take matters in your own
think
hand.
about that kind of comes into it. So, and I think that part of that too, with how this is all now playing out, I don't wonder if it is a way for the referees in the league to turn the temperature down on what's something that could really, really spill over. Like if tomorrow afternoon's game gets lopsided, I mean, that's when this stuff really comes into play, right? Because now you're getting deeper into the series, and especially if Florida is the team that's up big in the game, what's going to slow the Lightning down from just taking runs because look, you probably think you're already going to lose the series anyway. So, I don't wonder, and this is just me thinking out loud, if the league is trying to to cool the temperature down a little bit on this whole thing, because it has the potential to really bubble over.
Barkov not ruled out for game 3, not cleared either. I think the worst thing for Florida is that it's a 1:00 start tomorrow. Do you think he plays?
Man, I hate to even judge on that. Because we don't know if it's concussion protocol, if it's, did his shoulder get hurt? And remember, he missed some time this year with an injury too. We don't know if it re-aggravated, whatever. So I hate to even try and answer that question without having any facts whatsoever on what it was. If it's concussion protocol, then no. But if it's anything else, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's so much secrecy, gamemanship, whatever, from both teams, from all teams that are involved in the playoffs. Just like with Cirelli, right? Like there was some intrigue whether he was going to play, and didn't take part in the morning skate, but he was out there as soon as warmups began, and he was one of the more effective players on the ice last night for Tampa Bay.
Who wasn't an effective player on the ice last night was we'll start with 77. Victor Hedman had as many shots on goal last night as you and I. There was 3 opportunities. He didn't keep the puck in at the blue line. And I think he's getting outplayed by Nico Mikkola, his 77 counterpart on the other team. Why do you think that Hedman is struggling? Do you think he's struggling? And do you think there's anything to the weight of the captaincy, not having a guy like Steven Stamkos there? I mean, we haven't talked about this a lot. I brought it up last night. Stamkos had 3 power play goals in the first round against the Panthers last year. I think he had 4 goals in the series. He was the best player on the team. And, I think the Lightning did a really good job of kind of weathering the storm without him as far as the leadership goes. And I know they did lose in 5 last year, but, it's hard not to think you get 5 power play opportunities last night, that if Stammer's in the office, that they win that game, right? It's not impossible to kind of drift down that lane, knowing that, the proof of concept was there 12 months ago. How would you assess the play of Victor Hedman, and, how vital is it for him to be able to turn it around? Because if he doesn't, I think the Lightning gets swept.
First of all, who I think they missed last night? Oliver Bjorkstrand.
Yeah, true.
I think his absence is not being talked about enough, because their power play with him in the bumper spot and Point over at the circle changed the dynamic of their power play down the stretch, and they found something there. Now you have to kind of re-scramble again. So, yeah, you missed the weapon over there for sure, Stamkos, but you haven't had him all year. But you finally found maybe a little bit of a home for Bjorkstrand on the power play. I think his absence specifically in that game last night is something we probably haven't talked about enough. As far as Hetty goes, his points are there, right? He had a really good year points-wise. But I do feel that sometimes his decision-making has not been what we're used to. And I don't wonder if wearing that C does affect him, right? Because there is a lot of weight that comes with it. He's following behind Steven Stamkos, who's, one of his best friends. They spent so many years together, and, their kids were growing up together. And, so I don't wonder if some of that does have a weight on his decision-making, because that's the areas that Victor, I think, is, not been who we're used to seeing. Is not the Norris candidate that he has been in years past. Yes, the points are there, but it's the subtle things that don't show up on a score sheet, that have been like I think about, just off the top of my head, I think it was the Toronto game, the one that, they could have been in first in the division had they won it. Like, it's late in the game, they're up. They weren't up. So I forget which game it was, so I apologize. But I remember the play specifically where they're up late. Maybe it was a Detroit game. He's trying to cheat up ice. And I think it was the Detroit game. And the player he should have been marking was the guy who scored the goal. Why is Victor Hedman up by the blue line or up by the red line? He needs to be back by the blue line. You have to be better at defending. And so those are the decisions, again, decision making that I think has kind of affected his game. So, he is still a unique player in the way that he comes to the game, the way that he approaches the game. I just think, like a lot of players, the decisions have to be better, especially for a veteran guy who's been there, done that.
And now number 86. I have been staunch in defending this gentleman for a long time. In his last 12 playoff games, he doesn't have a goal. He had just shy of 21 minutes on the ice. He had over 730 of power play time last night. I know he's a playmaker, Eric. He had one shot on goal. And this is a guy that is, again, back-to-back Art Ross trophy. But I cannot be less impressed with what I've seen from him in the last two playoffs. And when you have Glenn Denning out there with two bum shoulders, when you got Cirelli, who's severely compromised, we can tell. I mean, he played fantastic last night, but we know he's not 100%. A lot of guys aren't 100%. But the Lightning can't do anything. They can't make any progress in the postseason if Nikita Kucherov doesn't change whatever the hell he's doing. It's not good enough, Eric. And we could talk a lot about his body language and his disposition and his relationship with the media. He's never going to win a good guy award in the media. Like, it's fine, whatever. But we're okay with it because he scores 120 points a year. And if he's not doing that on the grandest stage, I mean, there's just no way for the Lightning to be able to compete, not just in this series, but against any team in the playoffs.
I don't know. I think it gets overblown a little bit. Yeah, you need your best players to be your best players. If Braden Point scores that goal from the hash marks alone last night, probably not talking about this. If Jake Gensel scores off the post with a wide open net less than a minute in the game, we're probably not talking about this. He gets a lot of attention. Florida knows how to defend him. They know how to frustrate him. And I think that's what they're doing here. So he has to work his way through that. He has to find ways to get open. For people to sit here though and call him a ghost, like that's disrespectful to Nikita Kucherov, because can he be better? Of course he can be better, but he's always been a guy who doesn't shoot the puck a lot. We say that during the regular season, he needs to shoot more. So the fact that we're talking about, what is he? I think he only has 2 shots in 2 games. And sure, when you're struggling to score goals, we're going to find that, right? We're going to look for that. But it shouldn't just all be on Nikita Kucherov, right? Braden Point has to score that goal last night. He has to. He has to score on the chance he had wide open down the slot when Jake Gensel set him up. He's a 40-goal scorer. He's been a 50-goal scorer. He has to score that goal. It's a big moment. You need him to step up, right? So this is not just a Nikita Kucherov thing. This is everybody, one of their top players. They're the top offensive team in the league. And they had chances that they have to bury last night. These are the moments that make you who you are. And has he had a tough couple of years playoff-wise? Sure. But he was fantastic in 20, 21, and 22 when they were having success. So you see the correlation there. There's no doubt. He has to be better. But it's not just, you can't just put this on Nikita Kucherov. You just mentioned Hedman. He's one of the guys that has to be better as well. Brandon Hagel, like how many chances has Hagel created in these past two games? Honestly, how many chances has Brandon Hagel created that have been non-empty net goals since the Four Nations Cup? Right. Like, so he hasn't been the same type of player. Cirelli, his offense disappeared in the second half of the year. We thought, he might get 30 goals. I said, it's Anthony Cirelli. Let's hold a judgment on that. So like it's easy to throw Kuch under the bus because of who he is and everything else, but you can't just point it at one guy. Every one of their top players has to be better for them to have a chance to win Game 3 tomorrow and try and make this a series.
So what's the biggest thing, E, before I get you out of here, because I know you guys got to get rolling, what's the biggest thing that they got to do to be able to turn this thing around?
Finish the chances.
Yeah.
I will take the game that they played last night 99 out of 100 times, and I bet you they win it 99 out of 100 times. That's the type of game, because they defended well. Their penalty kill rebounded from a porous night in Game 1. And that's the thing that hurts here as we're sitting talking in the O2. I mean, let's face it, they pissed away Game 1.
Yeah.
And when you piss a game away in the playoffs, it's hard to recover. And they rebounded. They played the type of game they knew they were going to have to play. Their penalty kill was fantastic last night. The fact that they killed off the Hagel penalty and at least gave themselves a chance, to find that tying goal is a credit to the PK. So, they give up 3 night 1 and then they're fantastic on night 2. You want your power play to be better. It has to be better. Those are the moments. I mean, last night could have been a special teams game. One side delivered, the other side did not. So to me, it's just come out and play with the same type of emotion. But here's the problem. Now you're going to be probably going to be without one of your biggest emotional guys in Brandon Hagel, right? Like he kind of leads the way emotionally, I think, in a lot of ways for this team. And, you're probably not going to have him. Can you rally around? I mean, look, they'll probably go back to 11-7, which means Radish is back in the lineup, right? If Hagel's not available, Chafee stays in. But now who goes and plays with Cirelli, right? Who gets bumped up? I mean, Cirelli didn't practice again today. Yanni Gourde didn't practice today. So those guys are kind of dealing with whatever they're dealing with. And we know it's playoffs. Everybody's dealing with something. But their backs are against the wall here. I wrote it last night. I'm not sure right now there's a ladder that can get down deep enough to reach them, to pull them out of this hole. But it can be done. And I think if you take the way that they played last night and the chances that they generated, you have to think and hope that those go in and you get rewarded for for the way you played last night, if you could replicate that kind of a game.
Any chance they call anybody up from Syracuse?
I was thinking about that earlier today. There's a chance. I mean, Syracuse starts their playoffs tonight, I think. I think they start Game 1 of their round against Rochester tonight. So I don't know if they would, knowing that they have Radish, you can just go back to 11-7. I mean, Dylan Duke would certainly be somebody that I'd think about. But again, I mean, what can a rookie like Dylan Duke, who's played 2 games at the NHL, provide you when you have a guy like Darren Radish who can come in when you've been playing 11-7 all year?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess the other thing that you factor in too is the guys are banged up, right? I mean, you lose Cirelli the other night, you only played with 10 for the rest of the game, right? When you dress 11, that's the risk. I mean, it's an option for sure. This is sadly, and we've talked about it a lot. It's sad that you couldn't get the Isaac Howard situation resolved, right? Because boy, you might be able to use a guy like him right now. Not saying that he would have played, but the option would have been there. And we see the Snuggeroods and we see the Ryan Leonards. Those guys are playing in the playoffs for St. Louis and Washington.
You got that right, buddy. Erik _Erlendsson on Twitter /X. That's a K, not a C. Do it. 2 S's after the D. LightningInsider.com. Use that promo code JNC. $10 off this season and every recurring one after that. Anything else up on LightningInsider.com?
No, I'll try and gather all the day's news and between my packing and everything else before I head down to Sunrise. So, hey, look, I trying to compartmentalize everything that happened in last night's game. That's up there. I did the best I could in trying to do that. So, That's what you find at the side right now. Again, process over outcome. They got the process, didn't find the outcome.
Got that right, buddy. All right, get some rest. Who's driving? You or Ed?
Ed's driving.
Oh, nice. You can get some.
He's got the rental car.
There you go, buddy. All right, Double E, appreciate it. I'll see you guys down there tomorrow morning.
Okay, drive safe, man.
Thanks, pal. You too. Eric Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com, doing yeoman's work as always. And yeah, we'll keep a close eye on the whole announcement when it comes to. I'm just looking, guys. I'm looking. Okay, nothing yet. I actually have the notifications on. All right, yeah, nothing yet. Okay, just making sure that I keep you guys abreast of the situation. If we hear anything about Brandon Hagel, and you heard it, the only guy that has gotten a hearing like that and not gotten suspended is Tom Wilson, ironically enough, right? Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. Just appreciate everybody. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Have I ever been to Sawgrass? No, I have been to Sawgrass Mills Mall. I've actually stayed at the hotel over there. I don't know where we're staying this time. I'm actually staying with Ed and Eric. But again, if you're just joining us, I was supposed to leave with them after the show today, but because I was in the ER on Wednesday dealing with what I had to deal with, I got to finish packing my stuff. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be taking down all the stuff behind me because it is the last show here in this house. I will be moving to actually closer to the arena, so the drive will be much better for me. But that's what I'll be doing all day today. And then I'll go down and hang out with the guys tomorrow and be ready for the game. 1 o'clock puck drop. Lightning and Panthers, cannot wait for that. And we'll see if Sasha Barkov will be in the game. We'll see if Brendan Hagel will be available. George Richards from Florida Hockey now is joining us on the program in a few minutes. Just making sure that's featuring everything. Man, Florida Hockey Now. What a great website, too. Florida Hockey Now has got everything on there. Yeah, really, really good stuff here. A lot of great stories, man. They are all over it. Yeah. So a 2-0 lead for the Panthers over the Bolts. Live from the elbow room. Oh, no Liverpool scars. Get the hell out of here. No way, man. You know it's Man U all the day. Every day, my friend. They're in action this weekend, too. Shout out to UT and USF and everybody. And, of course, the Raisins San Diego to take on the Padres. And then I was mentioning the Shadour Sanders stuff, and it's funny because Trevor Sikkema just reposted it when he was on March 4th with Dan Patrick about him falling. No surprise. Just the way it goes, man. He's got to be better. He's got to be better. Some of my other thoughts when it came to, and it looks like ESPN's mock has Carson Schlesinger going to the Bucs for their second-round pick, the linebacker out of UCLA. Wouldn't hate that at all. I think the Giants did a good job getting Abdul Carter a 3. Pretty simple. I mean, if you roll out Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau, that is that's tough right there. Will Campbell, short arms. I don't think that's that big of a deal. I think he'll be fine. Mason Green, Michigan, Cleveland takes him. Genty, I love that pick for the Raiders. Geno Smith is so much better in that play action type of offense. And this is a guy that's he's going to tote the rock a ton. I had Tet McMillan. That was my pick at 8. I did my own mock draft. First time I ever did a mock draft. I always going back and forth. So you guys can hit up Zach Blobner and be like, Jay finally did his own freaking mock draft. I had Tet McMillan. You get a number 1 wideout for Bryce Young. It just makes so much sense. I was a little surprised that the Bears went with Colston Loveland instead of Tyler Warren, but I'm sure the Indianapolis Colts at 14 were thrilled with that. Tyler Booker, Alabama, goes to Dallas with that 12th pick. They love their Tylers on the offensive line. I think they have 3 there. Jalen Walker, that's who the Falcons go with at 15, linebacker spot, and then they trade back in later on to go and get James Pierce Jr. And James Pierce Jr. was a guy that was mocked to the Buccaneers early in the draft process. But as time went on, people like Mike Green, especially after the Senior Bowl workouts in Mobile, more people like Mike Green, more people like Donovan Ezeraku. So a little bit of a kind of a surprise there, but good on the Falcons. They had to go get a guy that was going to help them on defense, and they ended up getting 2. Marion Hampton going to the going to North Carolina, going to the Chargers from UNC, that two-headed monster with Najee Harris. Jim Harbaugh is going to run more. Matthew Golden, the way that Mark Murphy, the CEO of the Packers, announced that pick, that was really cool. First time since 2002 they took a receiver in the first round, and then he spoke about it. At the end, they let him get on the mic. He said Green Bay instead of Go Pack Go. He's got, you know, have to learn. I like the pick too, and I know Phil Yates talk about this. Having a guy like Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, who's a guard, but he kicked out the tackle and did such a great job for the defending national championship Ohio State Buckeyes. I love that kind of pick. I love the way Minnesota analyzes and goes to get their offensive linemen. I think Minnesota's that sneaky team. The NFC North is good, man. They are really good. We know the Lions are going to be good. I like the decisions from Green Bay and Minnesota, and I don't think it's such a runaway with Detroit. You're losing both of your coordinators. You have to be smart in that spot. Let's see. Malachi Starks, again, a great pick from the Baltimore Ravens. They go get a Georgia defender. That's never going to steer you wrong. And then Hairston, a guy that some people were thinking were going to the Bucs, cornerback out of Kentucky. He goes to the Buffalo Bills. Jahad Campbell to the Eagles. And then Simmons, the O-tackle from Ohio State. He is going to the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, we've been talking about the Lightning. Let's flip the script, switch gears, and talk to our guy, George Richards, Florida. He's doing it everything. FloridaHockeyNow.com. Great stories. They get it up quick, man, over there. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's going on? What's happening?
Thank you so much for joining me today. Where are you now? Are you back? Are you already back down south?
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale. Just sitting here at the Panthers complex, the Iceplex in Fort Lauderdale.
Nice. So what was the big initial reaction today to the Sasha Barkov hit? And do you think that he'll be available for game 3?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, anytime you get caught on the chin, I mean, you could see Barkov's head snap back. He did not expect that hit to be coming. Got caught totally off guard. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm no doctor, but I would assume that he's in concussion protocol. So it just depends on whether or not he gets cleared. Paul Maurice said today that he hasn't been ruled out, but he also hasn't been cleared. So, maybe if this game was Sunday, that I would, if I was a betting man, I would say he doesn't play tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're up 2-0 in the series. Less than 48 hours later with that 1 o'clock start does not bode well. Well, my initial reaction, I was just joking with Eric Erlandsson that I pissed a lot of Tampa people off last night, and I got a bunch of new followers from South Florida last night because right off the rip, as soon as I saw that hit in my mind, I said, that's 5. Yeah. And Bobby the Chief next to me was like, I don't know. And I go, there's a lot that went wrong for Brandon Hagel right there. And they say he's 6'1", but I don't know if he's 6'1", and Barkov is a thick dude, every bit of 6'3". And for a little guy like that to be able to hit him that hard and have him stay down like that, there's a lot of things that had to go in that form or fashion to make that happen. Not surprised for me that it was upgraded to a major, and wouldn't be surprised if he gets suspended. We're probably going to find out probably 5-6 o'clock today or after the Lightning get off the plane, whether he's suspended or not. But what was your initial reaction to the hit, and what were the Panthers saying after the game last night regarding the hit?
Well, in the moment, it looked like, maybe the puck came off, Sasha Barkov's stick, and it even if it had, it would have been interference. Right. But Sasha never touched the puck. And whether or not Hagel knew that, he did know that Barkov was coming around, and he sized him up and unloaded on him. And yeah, Sasha Barkov is a big man, and if he gets hit in the chest, there's no problem. But he didn't. He got caught in the chin, and I don't care how big you are, if you get popped like that, that's a head thing. That's not a toughness thing or anything like that. So the Panthers are not saying much. I'll tell you that. Paul Maurice refused to comment on it again today. He says that he's staying out of it, and kind of like what Cooper was talking about last night. Coop's got to defend his guy. Coop's got to say, it shouldn't have been a fight, whatever it was. But Coop, when he watches it again, knows exactly what happened, knows exactly what went down, but he's never going to say that publicly. So I would not be surprised to see Hagel not play tomorrow either.
George, what is it like to be able to cover a guy like Paul Maurice? I love just here. It's so great. I think these are the two of them. They both do it in their own way, but just listening to Cooper and Maurice speak after the games, like I feel like it's a treat to be able to hear two different guys to be able to do it. But man, it just you come away so enlightened.
Yeah, you get a lot of good stuff out of John Cooper and Paul Maurice as well. Paul Maurice is a guy. There are some coaches you call he's a notebook filler, right? That guy's always going to give you something that you're going to be able to use. Paul Maurice is a little different. Not that you get such good stuff that you think, oh man, that's a story for you figure out other stories to write based off what Paul Maurice says. He's just very good to deal with. And again, he, anything you need, you can get, and very, very easy to work with from a media standpoint. Now it's the playoffs, so you're getting limited. He's hedging his bets a little bit with the answers and everything, just like every coach in the league does. But that comes with the territory.
I asked Coach Maurice after the game yesterday, because after the game one victory, he was like, yeah, I'm not really understanding the identity of this game, because game one was such a weird contest.
It was weird.
And then game two, I asked him and he goes, we kind of have like a half of an identity. Yeah. What have you seen from your point of view? What has worked so well for Florida coming away with 2 road victories there in Tampa?
Florida's playing exactly the way they always play. And I think that, like both Coop and Maurice have said, these teams are no strangers to each other. They've run the same systems now for a couple, Tampa Bay, obviously, for a lot longer than Florida. This is year 3 under Paul Maurice, but Tampa Bay knows exactly how Florida's going to play. And we talked about that a little bit last night, that even, at the end of the regular season, Florida had lost 5 straight games. And a lot of people were up in arms based on the results. But not the way Florida was playing. They were playing exactly the way they wanted to play. Every game was 2-1, 3-2, something like that. Florida wasn't able to score, but they were playing a strong defensive game regardless of who was in the lineup. They had one game, I think it was in Detroit, where you had like 4 or 5 guys up from Charlotte playing in that game, and it was just plug and play. They were playing the exact same style that we're singing right now against Tampa Bay. Now it's a little bit more intricate, especially when it comes to how they're treating Nikita Kucherov. They're certainly keying on him. But this is how Florida plays, and you can't play this way all the time because you're just not going to have a team left. But in the playoffs, Florida knows exactly what it wants to do. It got 16 shots on goal in game 1. And 6 went in, but the Panthers don't. They're sacrificing offense for defense at this time of year. And Tampa Bay cannot be surprised by it, because this is exactly what they were expecting.
Yeah, everybody, I've kind of been getting on the people here locally where it's like, it's the physicality, it's the hits. I'm like, oh, that's great. The Lightning had more hits than the Panthers last night. They didn't score a goal. It's more than just that. I look at the blocked shots, and the Panthers blocked 20 shots last night. The Lightning blocked 6. Yeah. Florida does such a great job of getting in the passing lanes, getting in the shooting lanes. Like, a lot of those shots don't even get to Bobrovsky, and when they do, he does a really good job of seeing the puck. And I thought that was the thing that Vazzy had trouble with in the first 20 minutes. Thought he was phenomenal through the last 40. But you mentioned Nikita Kucherov. From what you've seen, this is 12 straight playoff games without a goal for Nikita, which, it's wild. He hasn't scored. Yeah. He hasn't scored since game 1 against the Maple Leafs a couple of years ago. From what you've seen, what has worked so well for Florida as they contain number 86?
Well, I was just watching, every shift I've seen, Florida, and I asked Evan Rodriguez this today, and he was basically like, we don't want him to get comfortable. When Florida wants to keep him to the outside, when they're setting up in the offensive zone to keep him out. Now, if you give up an odd man rush here or there, you don't know what's going to happen. That's all Sergei Bobrovsky, but Florida feels like it can contain him a little bit, or at least have been doing that by making him uncomfortable, by putting a body on him, by putting 2 guys on him. Whenever the puck comes to Kucherov, everybody collapses that way. And he has not had any space nor time to make anything happen. Now, that's going to probably change. I mean, I know you said 12 games, so it's gonna happen, right? He's going to get a power play goal and get rolling again. But Florida, the way Florida plays them is not going to change. Right. He's going to have to adjust to that, and it's not the regular season anymore. things change in the playoffs, and Florida's been doing a real good job the past 2 postseasons of limiting his action.
George, the biggest question going into the series was the status of Matthew Tkachuk. He was fantastic in game 1. Outside of the goals, what have you seen from him through 2 games as far as the impact he's had for the Cats?
Still playing a physical game, right? He's terrific on the power play. He's terrific around the net. I think we saw a couple switches when Florida was in the defensive zone for faceoffs. Tkachuk's line might be out there, but he's not. They switch him out for that. They're watching his minutes because they know the dude's hurt. I mean, there was a lot of doubt, from his camp that he would be able to return for the playoffs, even though they were like, he's not, but he shouldn't be. So the Panthers are trying to keep an eye on things, not put too many miles on him right now. And so far it's been working, but it's a long haul right now. Who knows what, game to game that changes. And he's a hard guy to pull off the ice. I mean, we saw it at the Four Nations when he was injured.
Yeah.
John Tortorella, almost had to put him in a headlock to keep him on the bench. So, good luck.
He's the guy Torts would have loved to coach. There's no trying to kicking that guy in the seat. What about Seth Jones and Marchand? I mean, these 2 guys picked up you always wonder, what are these trade deadline acquisitions going to do? I was wondering about Seth Jones. Everybody was saying, well, part of a Chicago team, can't really blame him. I'm like, well, he was on the team. So, I mean, he's got to wear some of it. And I wondered what he was going to be able to do, knowing that, offense and speed has been his game. Would he be defensively sound enough to be able to fit into the system? I was thinking, all right, maybe lost a little bit because his foot speed wasn't the same. Obviously we saw with Boston and the Four Nations, but man, those 2 guys I think have been fantastic through the first 2 games of the series. What have you seen from them too? How have they kind of assimilated themselves with the club?
Well, Seth Jones was brought in here to be Florida's second right-handed defenseman, but then Aaron Ekblad got suspended 2 or 3 games into that. So Seth Jones all of a sudden had to carry a lot of the load. He was playing 25, 26, 27 minutes, and that's something Florida didn't want to do. In fact, when they traded for him, they looked at his minutes in Chicago and said, well, we're going to reduce that and make him more effective that way. And then, boom, he was forced into it.
27-30 last night. He had 4.5 minutes more than anybody else.
That may change.
Yeah.
Ekblad coming back for game 3. But you know what? There's a silver lining in everything. Florida was with Ekblad out. They were forced into changing up and seeing what guys could do. So if you do have an injury during the playoffs, you kind of have an idea of who could play with who, which combinations you like to see. And Seth Jones has been terrific. I mean, from that first game that he played after the trade from Chicago, you could just see that first shot, that entry pass that he's got. He is an absolute terrific player. Is he the most defensive defenseman? No. I mean, but his game is strong, and he's really playing into this new role with the Panthers. And talking to Paul Maurice, he says it takes a defenseman about a year to figure out this system because Seth Jones did not play this style, this defensive system either in Columbus or in Chicago. So he's learning on the fly and doing a really, really good job of it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So who comes out if Ekblad goes in for game 3? Because you can't take the reincarnation of Bobby Orr out with Nate Schmidt.
Nate Schmidt probably, even without the goals, probably would have stayed in. I mean,
right.
Nate Schmidt ended up playing 80 of 82 games with the Panthers. The last time he was a healthy scratch was back in early November. So he's played a lot of minutes. He's been the guy that Florida has really counted on, with Florida losing Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Brandon Montour last year. I tell you what, Nate Schmidt's been a great story for just the way that he's been able to come in after being bought out in Winnipeg. He was scratched 20 times last year by the Jets. For him to be able to come in here and really pick up this system and play well in it, I don't think he would have been out anyway, but certainly not now. Uvis Balinskis would be the guy that comes out, and he's played very well. So Florida's very happy with the way their defensemen have been playing, and you've got Jacob Megnick a guy that's got 250 NHL games. He came up from Charlotte earlier this month and has played terrific for Florida, and he's a healthy scratch for the playoffs. But so if Florida has any injuries or anything, they're fairly deep at the blue line right now. At least maybe it doesn't look that way on paper to some people going, who is that? But the Panthers have been very happy with what they've been getting, especially since the trade deadline.
George, we mentioned Barkov. If he doesn't go tomorrow, how do they fill in that gap? Who draws in? How do they kind of utilize that same strong play down the middle, knowing you have one of the best two-way forwards in the game?
Yeah. I would think that Sam Reinhart goes right back to play with Anton Lundell and Eetu Lesterainen. That becomes Florida's new top line. Mm-hmm. You keep the Tkachuk, Bennett, Samoskevich line together. And then you start to mix and match. Do you put Evan Rodriguez centering the third line? Do you move Nico Sturm up? There's a couple things you can do. But, Paul Maurice likes keeping a couple guys together all the time. So I think we can figure out what the top six will be. I think the difference will be who comes in the fourth line and who centers that third line, because, Evan Rodriguez has been playing wing much of the year, but he can play center. Or do you bring Thomas Nosek in? Thomas Nosek had been Florida's fourth line center all season long up until the trade deadline when they got Sturm from the San Jose Sharks. So maybe Thomas Nosek comes in, but we'll wait and see for that tomorrow.
George, before I let you go, anything in this series surprised you so far? And what is the one thing that you're going to be keeping an eye on outside of the Barkov injury and the Hagel suspension? What other aspect of the game are you going to be keeping an eye on mañana?
I just think it's going to be, a complete desperation from the Lightning. Obviously, they're down 2-0. They're coming to Sunrise. They want to play another home game, right? They want to get, they think that they can take two here in Sunrise, and they can. I just think that Florida's depth, losing Barkov is tough because you see how important he is. If Florida's without Barkov tomorrow, that could be a difference maker in Game 3. But we're going to see a desperate Tampa Bay Lightning team. They would like nothing more than to come to South Florida and get a couple here and go back tied, or at least maybe at worst 3-1 for Game 5. So. We'll see what happened. I think we're going to see. The thing that surprised me was how Tampa Bay came out in Game 1. I thought they were much better yesterday. I thought they were on their game. Sergei Bobrovsky and Florida's defense was just a little too tough for them. So we'll see what happens. Coop will come up with something.
Not Florida hockey yesterday or tomorrow. It's Florida hockey right now. FloridaHockeyNow.com. The connoisseur of all things Florida Panthers, the one and only George Richards. George, so appreciate your time, my friend. I'm driving down early tomorrow. I'll see you at the game tomorrow. And, of course, I will definitely have some of that coffee out of that famous machine. And I hope they put the sign back up, my friend.
Yeah, we don't know. The sign's gone, baby.
George, you're the best. Thanks, pal.
All right, Jay. Thanks, bud.
You got it, man. The one and only George Richards. Listen, Florida Hockey Now. Go check him out at George Richards, Twitter/X. He is all over it, man. He gets those stories up quick. It's great. He does such a great job. Love the way that he presents the product there. And this is a battle between the Lightning and the Panthers. And these are two of the best teams in the league. And this is not for the faint of heart. This is not a team that advanced. That's why a lot of people thought that whoever advances out of this series has a really good chance to go to the Stanley Cup final because of the way that these teams are constructed, the way that the goalies are, and that you have the pedigree of champions and the head coaches that are no joke. Like, this is where it is all at. And if the Lightning are going to get back into it, it is a steep mountain to climb, but it starts tomorrow, and their best players have to play a whole hell of a lot better than they have in the first two games. And we shall see what happens with a guy like Sasha Barkov. Will he be available for Game 3? Will a guy like Brandon Hagel be available for Game 3? We shall see. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. I love you all. Thank you so much. A big thank you to everybody that joined us on the program today, including George Richards and Erik Erlendsson and Matt Matera and Jamal St. Cyr. We touched on a little bit of everything on the show today. The Buccaneers draft, the Rays with the win, Shadour Sanders, and of course a whole ton of Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers hockey. Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Share and subscribe. This is, I believe, show 74 that we've been doing in this room with this backdrop, and it's been a lot of fun. We're ready for kind of step 2, phase 2 of the Recher podcast. That will be starting probably on Tuesday. Depends. I'm going to try to drive back early Tuesday so I can get back to do the show on Tuesday. So we'll be doing the show Monday from the hotel. It'll probably be at 1 o'clock because it'll be after the Lightning morning skate. So I'll definitely keep you guys abreast of that information. Unlikely to be noon. It all depends on when the Lightning morning skate is going to be. So I will definitely keep you guys posted. Good luck to the Buccaneers in the draft, the Rays against the Padres, the Lightning, UT, USF, and everybody. Rowdy, son, we love you all. And can't wait to see what the next couple of days hold. It is 9 days away from my 40th birthday. Hopefully the Lightning will be playing in Game 7 at Amalie Arena. Again, thank you all. David Terry for the super chat as well. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. If you want to contribute to the program, you can do so, and we can keep this thing rolling. Everybody have a safe and a happy and a healthy weekend. Go Bolts, go Bucs, go Rays, go everybody. I love you. We'll see you on Monday right here on the